Exciting day, ladies, gentlemen, everyone. So great to be here with you today. Welcome to the Saunders College of Business 13th Annual Power of Your Potential Conference. I am Vicki Griffith, a proud alumna from RIT, the class of 1993, graduate of the, yay! I am a graduate of the Saunders College of Business with a degree in food marketing and distribution. I am the current president of the Women's Council here at RIT. I'm the past president of the Alumni Association Board of Directors. I currently sit on the hospitality board for RIT, and I was a past member of Dean Mosrill's advisory board. So thrilled to be here as your mistress of ceremonies. Today, we will be bringing you an amazing roster of speakers and panelists that will provide inspiration and courage for each of us on our own path, sharing their stories, tips, tricks, advice. Our speakers will specialize in fields across a variety of industries. With their years of experience in leadership roles, we hope that you find personal wisdom from their success and tribulations. Let their discussions and presentations spring new ideas in you on how to embrace your personal abilities and your greatest potentials. At this time, I would like to invite Dean Jackie Mosrill to the stage to say a few words.
Good morning. Can you tell that Vicki is an engaged alum? She only mentioned a few of the things she's done. She's just incredible. But we were so happy to be able to invite her to serve as our MC for this year. And of course, she said yes. So thank you, Vicki, for doing this. So thank you for joining us for our Saunders College of Business 13th Annual Power Your Potential Conference. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to RIT and the University Gallery for what I know will be a memorable conference with engaging speakers and wonderful networking opportunities. In addition to programming such as this conference, Saunders College is dedicated to the advancement of women through our full portfolio of undergraduate and graduate degree programs designed to meet the very needs of learners. We have many highly regarded programs, including our nationally ranked top 10 executive EMBA, both online and on-campus program. But we have a full portfolio of other programs at the graduate and undergraduate level at the intersection of business, technology, and leadership. We're also thrilled to see our new building expansion take shape. This is a rendering of what it'll look like, and it will be completed at the end of this year by November of 2023. I don't want to jinx us, but that's what they're telling me. This expansion will really elevate the learning environment for our students. It will drive creativity and innovation among our next generation of business leaders. It will include team rooms where students and faculty can gather and collaborate. It will include a state-of-the-art auditorium and applied research labs. It will also feature a premier university event space that doubles as an experiential learning lab for our business and hospitality students. And we're planning to have our 14th annual PYP conference there next year. So I hope to see you all up on the 4th floor next year at this time. Today kicks off our first ever Women's Weekend as we combined Power Your Potential, while the Leadership Academy at Saunders brings our 3rd annual Women's Leadership Summit tomorrow for our students. The Women's Leadership Summit aims to connect women, alumni, and current and prospective students from the RIT and local community and allow them to share their journeys and to develop new leadership skills and mindsets. I would like to thank you all for participating and engaging in these development opportunities. Some of our best learning begins when we get out of our comfort zones. Hopefully, this conference provides a platform for you as emerging leaders and experienced leaders to develop insights on leading in an active and authentic way. And also to have the confidence to think about different opportunities that might be in front of you, even if it wasn't what you planned. Think about those opportunities. I'm honored to be part of this event as we celebrate Women's History Month at RIT. This event would not be possible without the work of a great team of people working behind the scenes, including Karen Humbert, Leah Giassi, Eric Kuhlman, Tara LaCastro, Molly McGowan, Olivia Rotondo, Bill Sackman, Sandy Woodruff Whitmore, Liam Welsh, and special thanks to our events manager, Gabby Harrington, who really pulls it all together. So now I invite you to engage in this wonderful program, get out of your comfort zones, and enjoy the day. Vicki?
All right. Just keep in mind this is your day, and anything you need, just let us know. And we have a full agenda, but first, it's so important to thank those that help make this possible. That's our sponsors. Our leadership sponsor is First American Equipment Finance. Thank you so much for being here. It's supporting both our Women's Weekend events today and tomorrow, while Conciliarium Group is today's supporting sponsor. First, American Equipment Finance serves middle market and investment grade organizations throughout the US, focusing on technology, hardware, and software solutions and infrastructure improvements. Headquartered in Fairport, New York, First American is ranked among the 100 largest leasing companies in the US and is a subsidiary of City National Bank. As a company that stands for building a business with passion and professionalism, we thank you for your partnership in this event. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. It's been a while since I've done this, so bear with me. Our supporting sponsor, Conciliarium Group, over here, has a mission to help companies attract and retain talent by offering smart, employee-centric benefit programs. With over 200 years of combined experience, when you work with Conciliarium, you're partnered with a group of trusted, experienced advisors who go above and beyond to exceed clients' expectations for quality, service, and outcome. Thank you both for your support today. Some housekeeping items. How many people are into social media, Twitter, Insta? Okay, for those of you that do that, we do have a hashtag for today, hashtag SCBPYP, and then you're gonna tag at RIT Business. If you wanna find me, I'm actually at Food Safety Queen as well, and that's on Instagram and Twitter. Bathrooms are located right over here behind the stage. During our breaks, make sure you connect with these wonderful ladies in the room and be sure to get their LinkedIn info and email addresses. Once you have done this, tear off the bottom of the program. I didn't bring that up here to show you. And if you don't have one, they're actually at the front desk if you need to get one of those. And then drop it in the jar for your chance to win a lovely gift basket. Beverages will be at the back of the room for the entire day and during networking. Now, let's begin our day. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Elizabeth Keener as our keynote speaker today. Elizabeth is an award-winning author and renowned keynote speaker who has delivered speeches on a variety of global audiences and has been fortunate to sit alongside other senior professionals on panels discussing topics such as artificial intelligence, envisaging using cases for human-machine collaboration. She is currently Chief Growth Officer of Nortel, a digital transformation powerhouse founded by Tillin Estonia, founded in Tallinn, Estonia, which she just flew in, by the way, with a US headquarter in Seattle. Having co-founded an award-winning design and digital production venture, Thornburg and Forrester, Keener understands the complex business processes, shaping inventive strategies, and owning UX and digital engagements. Keener's career spans nonprofit, Fortune 500 companies, and the public sector, and is fueled by a desire to transform organizations from the inside out, leading digital business and talent transformations with previous leadership roles at IBM and Capgemini. Sorry. Please join me in welcoming Elizabeth to the Power of Your Potential conference. She will be sharing her keynote on the road less traveled, charting a strategically unconventional journey. Elizabeth?
Good morning, everybody. I can't believe it's snowing. I just came from a somewhat snowy place, but I haven't seen snow in the New York City area so far this year. So I woke up and looked out the hotel window and was like, wow, what's happening? So good to be here. My name is Elizabeth Keener. As you know, you're welcome to call me Liz, so we can be casual. We're all friends here. Really delighted to be here with you this morning, and if you have any other questions and want to grab me throughout the day, please do. Would love to engage and hear what's on your minds and things like this. I decided after hearing Vicki that I need to come up with a better title because I really love Food Safety Queen. I need to hear the story. So now I feel like I need to be the queen of something, but I'm going to figure out what that might be. Maybe I'll get some inspiration from you all or during the time here this weekend. So I am typically in the New York City area. I live in a town called Bronxville, which is just north of the city, home of another university, Sarah Lawrence College. And I chose the title for this talk because you heard my career background, and I'll have to admit to you first and foremost that my undergrad degree is in film. So I took a very interesting path to get from where I started to where I am now that I wanted to share, hopefully as a source of inspiration, and also to encourage you to think about how to follow your passion and how to make sure that you really take the time to identify with what you're curious about and consider different scenarios of where that might take you as you consider just the road ahead. And regardless of your age, and I say that because I got my EMBA degree from RIT here last year, so I decided somewhat late in my career to get an MBA after much consideration of that, probably for the past 15 years. So anything is possible at any age. And that should be something that is a big takeaway for me as well, because I certainly am trying to live that life myself. And I'm married, I have 2 children, they're 10 and 13, and I'm trying to also be a good role model for them, which I have to say, a great benefit, which I didn't realize about getting my EMBA, is now both of my kids are so intentional about studying, and before they go to bed at night, we'll do a second round of studying and prep for the next day because they saw me locked in my home office for hours at a time at night and on the weekends doing my work for the EMBA program. So it was good modeling for them to say, like, you have to get really intense and intentional about this, but it does pay off. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of context here, but with that, I'll jump into the presentation. So I'll get into a little bit more of my career background, but part of what inspired, and this may be obvious, the title of the talk was a Robert Frost poem, The Road Not Taken. And this was a poem that is probably quoted in many graduation speech and address in universities across the world. It is very meaningful to me personally because my father was really obsessed with this poem, so I felt like growing up it was something that I heard about a lot, and he was a huge inspiration in my life. So this is the quote that is the very end of the poem that really resonates with me the most as you look at this and think about these roots diverging in the woods, and you always have these choices and turning points in your life where you might say, what do I do next? And I'll, tell you quite frankly, as I go through a little bit of my career story, the moments in my career that I literally had no idea what I wanted to do next, that I know I wanted to make a fundamental change. I know I wanted to make a shift or a turn, but I didn't know which way to go. So it's good to have that sort of North Star and guiding compass, and I have always been a very idealistic and, dare I say, utopian person that believes that we can have a great society that's very equitable and everyone has a fair shot. And these are some of the ideals that when I think about what do I want to do next, I look back to that can help guide me from one industry to another, from one role to another. So I'll share a little bit more about how this has manifested through my experience. So a story that you may be the very first audience in the world to hear is that I come from a really humble background in the middle of rural Pennsylvania. My father was a truck driver, so he drove a truck just like this for Coca-Cola. In the summertime, I would sometimes go to work with him just for fun, so I would be in the passenger seat, hanging out, riding along, listening to the radio, eating snacks, visiting and dropping off Coca-Cola and different retailers, filling up soda machines. And my mom was, when I was young, she was a crossing guard and then later became a bus driver. But this is to say, I and my cousin, Helen, were the first people in our family to go to university, period. So I came from a very blue-collar upbringing, and when I was in kindergarten even, I tested higher than any other child had tested in the history of the kindergarten, and my mom asked my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Doolin, what do I do with my daughter? Because she literally had no idea at the time and probably still feels this way. I don't know what to do with you. And she said, just let her play and have fun and do all of the things that other kids do. So I grew up very much charting my own path because I didn't have, other parents and family members to necessarily be that inspiration for me. But my father was always very supportive and was probably my biggest ally growing up and was really encouraging to say that, I was a mediocre student and I could have done better and I want you to, shoot for the stars. And he had my back repeatedly growing up, and that is what really made such a huge difference as far as, again, feeling that intrinsic sense of motivation that just stays with you throughout your life when you have a support network like that. So this is just what I put together as a career snapshot. So as I mentioned, since I was a film major in undergrad, I also double majored in literature. So all of my literature professors were like, oh, you're going to go get your master's and your PhD and become a professor, right? And I was like, no. And I did, after I graduated, go into advertising. So I worked after graduation at an ad agency in Chicago called Havas, and then moved to Los Angeles and worked for an agency there for a year until my husband and I decided pretty quickly that we didn't really love Los Angeles. We both are like diehard East Coast people, so commuting everywhere all the time and the whole lifestyle we found super stressful. It's like, yeah, the weather's nice, but it also felt like you were in the movie Groundhog's Day, that you woke up to the same day every single day, and you don't have seasons, you don't have snow, all of these great things. So for that reason, we ended up staying in Los Angeles for only a year, then made the decision to go to New York. So I moved to New York with no job whatsoever. My husband had a job, and we said, we can afford to live off of one salary for now, and I will look for opportunities when I get there. So it was a little bit of a challenging time because it was right after 9/11, so people were not necessarily in hiring mode at the moment, but lots of people were willing to talk. And this is like maybe career lesson number one, that I had interviewed for a role at an advertising agency in New York. I was turned down for that role, but the person that interviewed me referred me to Trollback and Company, which is a Swedish-owned design company who ended up hiring me. So you can, a closed door sometimes doesn't mean it's closed. It can often lead to another opportunity. And if somebody rejects or declines you for something, of course, still be kind and gracious to them, because they could then refer you to your next role. So that ended up to be a really great experience, and what I would say is my first career pivot, getting much more immersed into the world of design, which I then came to love. And after that, was recruited to become managing director of another creative studio that was called Nice Shoes, after which two partners that I worked with at Trollback and Company approached me and said, hey, let's have dinner. We have this idea about starting a business. Are you in? And that was something, going back to my childhood, that I always wanted to do. So starting my own business was on my bucket list of things. And as I described myself, I was the kid when I was like in elementary school that had the lemonade stand that was selling lemonade every day in the summer. And then as I got a little bit older into middle school, I was the kid that was making handmade jewelry and selling that to whoever would buy it locally. And this was before Etsy and other things that make this process a little bit easier. So they had to do things the old-fashioned way on somebody's front porch. But I had always this entrepreneurial bug that I felt like I needed to dive into this, and we had meetings for about 9 months coming up with business plans and strategies and trying to consider what clients that we had that we felt reasonably confident would follow us, so that we ended up not raising any money or taking any loans. It was all, bootstrap basically, and we determined the amount of time we could defer making any salary in order to just get the business moving and start getting some revenue in. Which we did, and that's a company that I owned and operated for 8 years. And towards the end of that relationship, IBM became a client of ours. And during that process, about 5 or 6 projects in, this was right after the Jeopardy challenge when Watson was getting famous. I was really interested in data and AI, which is how that's become a topic and a passion point for me. And I spoke to the woman that was, hiring the firm at IBM and said, hey, can we talk about, maybe a different or more serious relationship than project-based work? And she said, yes, in fact, we could acquire your company because we need to build the services that you do, which is why we're hiring you for all of this stuff. So would you entertain an acquisition? So at that time, I brought this up with my remaining business partner, Scott, and he was very, very firm about staying independent, maintaining the company. I think looking back, I could and should have been more aggressive about this, because I think the leverage that we could have gotten from this IBM relationship could have been a really great one. But that, to me, was a time in my life where I wanted to get closer to technology, and I also wanted to get more international experience. So up until then, a lot of my work experience was within US and Canada. We had an odd project in France, and it was not very international, and I could see the world getting smaller. And this is where I think as women, we can use our intuition and our spidey sense to be able to detect when we see mega forces and global economic trends coming into play that may guide you. So to me, my inner voice was telling me, you need to get closer to technology, and you also need to get more global experience. So as I looked at IBM, after talking to Scott and he being very clear, he wanted to maintain the company, we agreed that I would sell my shares to him, and then I ended up joining IBM and taking a role to build a team in New York, and then this team became global, and it was a center of competence that was in the user experience and design space for digital products. So that was, the next 5.5 years, which was, again, a super incredible journey. So I did get to work and travel all around the world, throughout Europe, Asia, had 2 or 3 trips to Australia working with clients there. So got experience across all industries, all sectors, all continents minus Africa and South America. Even though we did work with some South America clients, I unfortunately didn't have an opportunity to go there. But that became a really pivotal turning point for what I would say is, the rest of my career, certainly from getting much more immersed on the technology side, which has really paid off. So after being at IBM for a while, and this was practically right before COVID, I had a couple of companies reach out to me, one of which was Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and former IBMer had joined as Chief Digital Officer. He was looking for help to build out a digital transformation office. So even before the pandemic hit, MSK knew that they wanted to invest in digital transformation, both inside the hospital and also looking at the patient experience and how to make that easier. That patient experience piece obviously got really accelerated as we got into the world when COVID came, that we had to consider telemedicine and remote monitoring and all of these things that needed to be done when people didn't want to go anywhere near the hospital. So this ended up to be a good opportunity for me to go into the industry side and get deep into what it looks like to transform a 130-something-year-old institution where there were a lot of people that, and this is, I think, a common change management problem in any sort of transformation like this. There were a lot of people that were at the company for 30 years, 35 years that were like, the way that we've been doing things has been fine. Like, why are you moving my cheese, or why do we need to do this differently? So it became, I thought, oh, we're going to be able to benefit the community and our patients and families so much with this digital transformation, but it was a pretty significant internal sell as well. Of course, COVID was a great accelerator to that. So the way that this story concluded is because of the pandemic and because of the fact that the occupancy rate of the hospital in the first year of the pandemic was so low, and they actually closed the hospital for a couple of months, our digital transformation budget got cut by $32 million. So the person that hired me, myself, another colleague of mine, saw the writing on the wall, and we were fortunate in that we didn't lose our jobs, but we felt like we are here and we have no operating budget anymore, so what do we do? So my boss ended up going to Teladoc, another member of my team went to GlaxoSmithKline, and that's when I ended up going to Capgemini. And while I was at Capgemini, I led an initiative that was around reinventing work. So what became then the post-COVID, or like transitioning out of COVID, I should say, chapter of the story was all about future of work, remote work, distributed teams, what work looks like in an enduring way into the future. So, every company across the globe wanted to talk about this. So it was no trouble getting conversations started. And this was a position that I had a team primarily in North America that I was growing and looking after. And then the second year of my Capgemini tenure, I ended up taking a global role overseeing reinventing work on a global basis with all of our countries that were operating in that space. So that ended up being my Capgemini story. And as I joined Nortel just the end of November, my challenge, if you will, with Capgemini is they just wanted to grow and grow and grow. And they over and over again talked about how they want to be bigger than Accenture. And I was like, okay, you want to be bigger, but I want to be the best. And I don't think that size trumps quality or value when it comes to just being the biggest. So I really started questioning my alignment to the philosophy and the ever-increasing sales and revenue targets that we had, and got into a conversation through an executive women's network that I'm a part of, and learned about Nortel. and fell in love with the company and what they're all about, which I'll get into a bit later. But this is how now the final step in my career, I shouldn't say final because I'm sure there's more, came to be. So during the time that I was at IBM, I actually got inspired to write the book that's in front of you, which is called Good Girls Don't Make History. Now, writing a book is something else that was always on my bucket list of things to do, and partially because of my communications background. I've always had a pretty strong creative vein that appears. And when Hillary Clinton lost the election after that night, we probably all remember watching the news as that was going down. The next morning, I was so upset and just beside myself, and I didn't know what to do and decided to channel my energy into something positive, which became the creation of this book, which took practically 4 years from the inception of the idea until it got published because of the fact that I was doing this as a nights and weekends effort. I was not a women's history major, so I didn't have all of the research and the background. Fortunately, my sister-in-law, who teaches at UVA, did study women's history, so she gave me this huge encyclopedia that when we were visiting her over the holidays one year, she was like, if you want to know the story here, read this, which became the first inspiration, really, for creating a book that was a graphic novel. Because when you look up the history of women's rights in the US, you find it only in these huge encyclopedia volumes, and like, who wants to read that? So I wanted to make a book that was really compelling, first to a YA audience, and also this is a book that I hope you all enjoy as well as an adult audience, because it has that. It could be a coffee table book. It could be something that people of all ages enjoy, because it's very visual. The artwork is very beautiful. I went through I don't know how many illustrators until I found Michaela up in Alberta, Canada, going through this process of just getting the right team assembled. But it was a real labor of love that was happening for me in the background while I was at IBM. And then I got it published during the time I was at MSK. And the publishing process, by the time we were getting close to finishing the book, it was the beginning of the pandemic. And as I was starting to reach out to publishers, I got, sent 50 emails, got 50 rejections. One of those stories, I remember hearing a similar story from the director of my favorite Netflix miniseries, The Queen's Gambit, that I felt like depressed for a little bit that I put all of this time and energy and investment into this book, and I'm getting rejection after rejection. So then I decided to make a campaign on Kickstarter, just to say, hey, let me revalidate that there is an audience for this and try to raise $10,000 to finish producing the book. And through that process, I then had 3 publishers reach out to me and say, I want to publish your book. So again, and probably many people in this room have had this experience and you know how to deal with rejection and reframe and turn things around so you can get yourself out of any hole of depression or negativity that you feel. It was a restart for me to say, I need to do this in a different way. But then that different way worked out. So again, it goes back to this concept of the road not taken. I am somebody that really, really dislikes reinventing the wheel. So I like to learn from what other people have done and how other people have been successful. So you need to balance doing that with knowing when to take the road not taken and trying a completely new and different strategy. So this ended up working, and my goal was to get this book launched in 2020 in the time for the 100-year anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment. I think we were a year later than that, but it is really a timeless story, and it's a story that I think in particular should be read, of course, I hope it's interesting for women, but it should really be read by boys and by men as well, because I am able to do what I do because my husband does 90% of the domestic work at home, and my son is also a huge advocate for women and points out things he sees all the time, like if he sees a men at work sign with road construction on the street. He says, "Mom, why does that say men at work?" And is always picking up different gendered things that he sees like out in the wild, and is just tuned to look at this world differently right now. And I think that the more that we can instill that in boys when they're young, then they grow up to be our allies, and we can slowly start to shift our society in the way that we want it to go. So I think it's been great for me to have this as an experience, and I am trying to figure out myself. So this is my current dilemma or crossroads, because despite the fact it was extremely challenging to get this book done, I loved the experience, obviously the outcome, and I'm trying to figure out what to do next. What is the next story I want to tell? So if anybody has any ideas or wants to be a co-conspirator in this, you can let me know. So these are just some stories that I wanted to share, which you can see all the highlights in the book. I converted this presentation from Keynote to PowerPoint, so if you see any strange letters like this letter D at the bottom of the screen here, this is why, because sometimes the formatting gets a little crazy. But this is Alice Paul in Washington, D.C. in August of 1920 when the final ratification happened and everyone was celebrating. And there was an interesting op-ed that came out on January 1st of 2022 that was written by Michaela Wells. She is a high school student in Alexandria, Virginia, and this op-ed was in the Washington Post. And she was talking about, as she looks at her history books and what she is taught in school, it seems as though women did not exist and do not exist, and how our history is taught in general. So I think that this notion is something that people see and people feel, and we're not going to be able to change things overnight, but I am always interested to see who else is out there recognizing this and hoping that we can slowly start to make changes even as we look broadly at our curriculum. So as I say with this book, my aspiration is not for it to be a bestseller, even though, sure, that would be fine. I want it to be in schools, and I want it to be in libraries, and I want this to become a standard part of the curriculum, that people are learning not only women's history, but history of all communities that has not been taught properly in public schools and in other schools. And next, I'll play a video that we put together right before we started writing the book. Before I started writing the book, I didn't even know, again, this was going to be a graphic novel. We were thinking about creating a group to celebrate the anniversary of the 19th Amendment ratification, and I was trying to do, set up an art fair and all sorts of crazy stuff. But I pulled this video together using all of the photographs that I found from the Library of Congress. So these are all real images set to a modern day song, of course, but I just wanted to share it with you because it's something that became an inspiration or a cornerstone for me as I was doing the project. And like literally many times I would watch it, like I would start tearing up when you see the expressions on these women's faces and how much they had to endure. So I wanted to share it with you as well today.
Your views
She Votes 100 was to celebrate the 100-year anniversary of the ratification and passage of the amendment. But that video is something that I think is, hopefully was moving for you to all see, and it's now, standing here in Rochester. Last time I was here, I was doing some sightseeing and was able to go to the Susan B. Anthony House and things like this. Like, this is the home of where it all started with Seneca Falls, so it's always nice coming back here and having the experience of being in the epicenter of where it all started. There was, of course, in addition to some of the images that you saw in the video, a ton of propaganda that was circulating at the time that was ridiculous when it made all of these claims about how society was going to be turned upside down, if you will, if women got the right to vote. And it's many more examples beyond what you see here. So as I was doing my research, I guess I shouldn't say it's shocking, because we see lots of shocking things in the media today, all of the disinformation that was going on. So I hope that you enjoy the book, and I have a few pages in here just to highlight what you'll see and hopefully what you'll enjoy. Some of the characters that I wanted to highlight that were some of the people that I had not known about previously, but really appreciated enjoying, one of whom was Inez Milholland. And she was a lawyer, and actually she passed away during this process, and it was shortly after she was giving a speech in Los Angeles and making a plea to the president to take this seriously. A couple days later, she passed away, which again, I think speaks to the level of commitment that the women that were involved in this crusade had, as far as sticking with it to the point of, even she had some underlying health issues, but nothing stopped them and nothing deterred them, and their perseverance is pretty inspiring. Two other people that I appreciated learning about were both Mabel Lee and also Frances Harper. Mabel Lee was interesting, and I don't have a huge story about her in the book, but she does appear in one of the renderings of the 1920 parade in New York. As a Chinese American, she was, they're still in the minority and facing a huge amount of challenge in that community, but she was one of the first. And she was very involved and very assertive, and really made a name for herself and rode on horseback through the parade. So learning about her and her story was very moving, as well as Frances Harper. And I have a quote from her here. So I encourage you, if any of these people interest you, to do a deeper dive around all of these characters, including the men. So Harry Burns, and those of you who know this story know it well, that he was the final and deciding vote in Tennessee that led to the passage of the amendment. So it was a tie vote, essentially, as most of our elections are today, or a very close call. And his mother had sent him a letter imploring him to not forget the women and to do what was right by his mom. And he changed his vote and ended up being the person that tipped the scales and actually got this passed. As you know, we continue to face challenges as women. I am always, the Boston Marathon story is a good example of just 56 years ago. Look at people trying to tear a woman out of a marathon, and the fact that women can't run in a marathon, to me, is just mind-boggling. But we continue, of course, to face challenges in different communities today. And I think that what we can do here in this room, which I know that we all do, is have each other's backs and really be allies to one another. And when we see something like this, to come to the aid of our sisters, so we can hopefully see less and less behavior such as this in the future. And this was just a slide of some milestones that I put together as far as women and women's history and how far we've come. I think the top, the Credit Card Equal Credit Opportunity Act from 1974 is the one that, when I share this, surprises a lot of people, because depending on what generation that you're in, a lot of Gen X people are like, oh, I didn't realize that my mom wouldn't have been able to get a credit card. And it's like, yes, your mom would not have been able to get a credit card. So, in some ways we've come a long way, and we should be grateful for that. But in other ways, we still have a long way to go. But with the power of the people in this room, I feel confident that if we all dig in and get passionate about what we believe in and supporting one another, we can really create lasting change. So now what? Wanted to share a little bit about what I'm currently doing and what drew me to this company that's headquartered in Tallinn, Estonia, where I just came from, and it was a little bit snowy there as well, of course. So they became famous a few years ago for the digital transformation of Estonia, and Estonia is really the most digitally advanced country in the world. So this little country of just over 1 million people has gone through an incredible digital transformation. So when I first went to Estonia, which was in the beginning of December, they have an innovation center there that they will take you through. And my tour guide was telling me all about all of the things that you can do just on your mobile phone or, laptop, whatever, in Estonia. And she was like, Liz, do you know the only thing that you can't do online in Estonia now? And I was like, no, what is it? She's like, you can't get divorced. But next year you'll be able to get divorced. So everything else you can do online, and it's pretty magnificent to see the principles and first and foremost that you'll see here is this real citizen-centric community that they have, and the bottom one, that all individuals own their personal data. This is something that hopefully soon we start to reckon with, like the importance of that in not only the United States, but in other parts of the world. So what was interesting about this company beyond their capabilities is that their principles really align with my principles and beliefs. And when you reach an opportunity in a meeting of the minds like that, then it feels like, there's genuine synergy and it's good and it clicks. So these are some of the things that really drew me to the organization. And the fact that their government can move at such speed. So I was talking to another colleague in December while I was there, and she was like, Liz, I remember when I was growing up, my mom and dad both had to take off work to do our income taxes annually because that's how hard it was. They had to both take the day off work. And like maybe you could argue the same thing is true in America for some people, especially if you procrastinate and you're like, oh shit, it's April 14th and I don't have my paperwork together yet. So she said, like, just so you know, that was the past state of things, and now people can do their taxes in 5 minutes or less. It is that fast and that seamless. So when you see this, and obviously we're talking about tiny, tiny country here when you look at Estonia compared to the US, I can't help but wonder, like, what might we learn and what principles might we bring to the way our government works. And I'm also really encouraged by the fact that Canada and the Canadian government has sent many delegations to Estonia. And I think that they have a huge interest in, maybe not exactly mimicking, but setting up a similar system of governance in Canada. So my hope is that if Canada starts to evolve in this direction, it will put pressure on the US to say, oh, look what Canada's doing, maybe we should consider doing some of these things too. So that is my long-term hope as far as empowering people. And like I said, divorce is the one thing you can't do online. All IDs and driver's licenses are electronic, so you don't have to be fumbling through your wallet to pull things out. It's like, EID, everything digitized. And on the data point, and I think this is where there's interesting public and private partnerships, and this also goes back to the point of all individuals owning their own data. There's a data mesh or a data layer that's called X-Road that many countries use, in fact. That is where all of the data sits and lives, and it can be permissioned to go to the places you want it permissioned to. So through the experience as a person in Estonia, if you're dealing with the government or if you're dealing with healthcare, they want you to only be asked, one time, and if your data is on X-Road, in no institution or company should you walk in the door and they don't know who you are. If you've permissioned your data, they're not going to ask you what's your name and your address and when you go to the doctor's office sometimes and get asked the same question by 10 different people 10 different times, it's like you only get asked once, and then that data, unless it changes, can be permission to wherever you want it to go. And all of this is done and operates through X-Road. And like I said, this is something that I think gives a great opportunity for both transactions within public sector as well as transactions within private sector or enterprise. And the ease of doing business, I talked about taxation, but it takes 3 hours to start a new business. So I want to set up a new company. How do I get it done? I think I've talked to a lot of women who want to set up a company, and then they're getting really caught up in, should it be an LLC or an S Corp, and all of these considerations. They're, of course, very important considerations, but I think really silly things get in the way of people starting up and building their passion and their idea. So the fact that you can start a company in 3 hours, again, is one of those things that's really, really compelling to me. And the startup ecosystem and the number of successful unicorn companies that have come out of Estonia is a byproduct of the fact that there is a great ease of doing business, that there is so much that is digitized, and when you set up this environment for success, then this is the result. So I think there's a lot of lessons that I am trying to take personally, but I think everybody in this room can take to think about both within your life, within the lives of your family, within the lives of your companies. How do you create the conditions for success? How do you remove friction? We like to say that we try to create, even beyond frictionless experiences, seamless experiences, so things can just happen and flow and you don't get hung up in bureaucracy. There's also an e-residency program in Estonia, and I think this has become very highly relevant to the Estonians because of the fact that they have Russia at their doorstep practically, and the more people that become e-residents, they feel almost like that's more people that have their back if they experience any challenges. And cybersecurity is obviously an important topic as well. So we have just deployed a cyber range for NATO, so we're very involved in, in the broader scheme of what's going on right now and making sure that the NATO countries are protected. So it's an incredibly interesting moment in time to be working at a company like this. And also pretty pioneering work in the Estonian government on blockchain, because that is also what they're using to manage and run a lot of their transactions. And of course, as you all know, blockchain does not equal Bitcoin. I'm just talking about blockchain as far as its ability to be a ledger. And then voting, 50% of the population votes online. And I know in the US we think, oh, electronic voting is unimaginable, but it happens in many countries. I think, I believe it could greatly eliminate the reduction of fraud and things like this, but I'm sure that there's many people that would come up with arguments to say the contrary. But I do hope that we all in this room live to see a time where we can do electronic voting as well as taxes, which I've discussed already, and health, and the management of health data, e-prescriptions, and things like this. I won't get into the pain and agony and expense that we have with health and just the cost of things in the US in general, but lots of room to improve. And it also is worth saying Estonian schools and their children are ranked amongst the highest as being the most educated, which is, I think, really important as well as far as their principles around investing in education. And having a lot of, I saw one of these things when I was first driving around in Estonia. I didn't know because it was very snowy that evening what this was. It was an autonomous system, so they do a lot of things autonomously as far as protecting the society and monitoring. So I think that's really interesting and really cool. And this notion of digitizing everything is, of course, a journey that doesn't need to end and that can go to all far reaches of the country. So this, again, is the way that they think about digitization, which is, I think, the way that we all should, is in a very inclusive way. So regardless if you live in a very rural setting like this one, I think in the US we're very challenged around the topic of the digital divide and who gets the technology and who doesn't, and who has broadband and who doesn't. I think that is something that we need to consider, to think about and challenge as female leaders, and as we think about the fact that we all are living in a world where we're digitizing everything. And what does that mean and what does that look like? A funny thing that shows their sense of humor is they have a chat bot that's called Bureaucrat, where if you do have a question, then you can ask Bureaucrat what your question is. And their AI strategy for the country is called simply CRAT. So this is just a little bit of the global footprint, meaning I'm traveling a lot more than I was a year ago, but I am mainly focused on work in North America and Europe, but it's an exciting job. So this is where the type got really crazy, but I think we have a deep, deep focus, obviously, on government, on industry, and being healthcare builders. So how this all translates back to my early career. Starting with when I was at IBM, I started to do work for some public sector clients and thought, public sector is pretty interesting. So, the fact that this pulls in that thread is really compelling to me. My work at Memorial Sloan Kettering obviously translates into the focus on healthcare. And in most of my career, I have been focused on Fortune 500 type clients on the enterprise side and have done some SMB work and some work with startups along the way. But really, as I look back to the main threads of my career and the companies that I have been engaged with, it does align with what the company is doing. So what I want to leave you with and encourage you to think about, and then I want to do a short interactive activity with you all at your tables, is to say, how do you follow your curiosity? And without putting too much pressure on yourself to say, I'm going to commit to doing this by this date, what's on your mind right now and what's interesting to you? And I definitely believe that you don't need to reinvent the wheel, but you need to build the wheel that's right for you. And at different times and phases of your life, that wheel might move faster or slower, but try to let it be your own, and try to let it be under your control and on your terms. So what I thought would be good, and hopefully you have some ideas that are swimming around in your head. If at your tables, I know everybody has lots of different types of notepads and Post-it notes and pieces of paper. Just write down one idea. Could be an idea, could be a project, could be, I don't know how this is going to manifest yet, but I would like to do it. Could be a bucket list thing. I want to write a book. I want to visit Antarctica. Just write it down, because the first step in making something happen is writing it down. The second step is find somebody at your table to share with, so you share with one another what your ideas are. Maybe the person sitting next to you can help you to make that idea happen. And I just want to take 2 or 3 minutes to do this, and then if some brave volunteer or two wants to share what they've came up with, then that would be really nice as well, and then we can open things up for questions. I see everyone is deep in conversation. I'm going to give you 2 more minutes, and then I'm going to ask for a brave volunteer or two to share an idea. We're okay on time, right? If
Yeah.
we're ending at 9:30?
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll see if anybody has any questions, you know. I know I have one for you if they don't.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. I just
All right, it's 9:23. We have 7 minutes. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Does anybody want to share their an idea or their idea that they came up with? It's great being put on the spot early in the morning. I know. I know the feeling. So if anybody has an idea that they want to share, please do, because the women in this room could help you make that a reality. Do you want to come up to the mic just so people can hear you? Just to make it more embarrassing.
It's hard to be embarrassed in a room full of supportive women, so thank you. Can you? Okay. So I'm not sure if anyone's ever heard of this organization before, but Creative Mornings is an international organization where you meet once a month for a free breakfast lecture. This usually happens before 9 a.m. Oh, sure. Okay, so a morning lecture series that's based internationally. It's free. I used to participate in this in San Antonio, and it would refresh me once a month before I went into work and just empower me. And I met so many cool people through this program. So there is one in Buffalo, but I would love to start a Creative Mornings here in Rochester. I just haven't found my people yet. Other creative
All right,
minds.
looks like there's people in the room for you.
Okay. I will follow up with you. But yeah, just looking to create a creative community here and find those people and inspire them monthly.
And what's your name again so people can find you?
My name is Kira Sandoval. I am the communications coordinator at the RMSC, Rochester Museum and Science Center.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, my name is Alina. I went to RT Saunders College of Business, majored in Management Information Systems. And my idea, I wanted to start a digital health informatics brand, or like I'm a data engineer and then work on cloud data. And I would love to bring more like disparate bioinformatics data together to kind of bring gut health research information to the right people.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to share something? Oh, thank you.
I'm Cheryl Shikansky. So basically for my life, it's very personal. I actually attended this last year and I was crying at that time too, so I apologize in advance for that. But I would love to write a book, and I love this one. I actually like the detail in it and just the graphics around it. There's many people that inspire me throughout the world, but for myself, my son inspires me. So he lives with a genetic disorder, and we've been living with this for over 20 years. And I would really love to just write about that. And it goes into a lot of things. I'm part of Consolarium Group. I'm a partner there. But it's the health insurance industry, so I love to see what you're doing there. It's just a world of so many different things. It's expensive, but there's a lot of things you have to navigate through that system. So I'm thankful for some reason why I'm in the role and the job that I am, so I can help and advocate and support for him, because all he wants to do is to be alive and just, navigate through all that. So I would love to tell our story sometime. I ran into somebody that would help us to do that. I just don't know where to start. And just to put thoughts and ideas around, because we just have to take time to do that. So it's one thing I definitely want to do, and sooner than later. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, 3 is a magic number, so we can stop there. We have one more. Come on up.
My name's Joy Ziegler, and I work in the Controllers Department. And I'm interested in looking at visual processing, like how to improve visual processing in everything we do, whether it's your computer screen for like working on Excel spreadsheets or in software, or for athletes, how they can digest, how all of us can digest information better. And it could help old people too, but we're wearing glasses, but there's various softwares and various things that I've considered that might help us do that. So that's what I plan to do my dissertation on and get my PhD hopefully in the next 2 years. And I'm looking for anybody who's interested in looking at that in different ways. So I'm looking at accounting, I'm looking at sports, I'm looking at elderly and how they digest information, but I'm looking at other ideas too to help build my research.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, come on up. Yes, we need some music.
Hi, my name's Sarah. I am a learning experience technologist with a company called Jackrabbit. So we work a lot within education development. Oftentimes I am in the room to help implement technology. I'm also our accessibility expert on our team, if you can call me that, but mostly I personally am very passionate about accessibility for my own personal experience going through education. And when the word accessibility comes up in meetings, what I've learned is it's not really a very pleasant topic to talk about, and I really wanted to change that. And I started doing a lot of research, and my company allowed me to dive into it, and I just gotten really passionate over the past 6 months in how to implement accessibility into processes, because a lot of times it was just being bolted on and not built in. And I really want to work on shifting people's mindsets around how they think and approach accessibility and inclusive design.
Bravo to you all. We did not get to Q&A, but I will be at the Mix and Mingle and here throughout the day, and do not hesitate to reach out to me, and I mean it. You can find me. So the good thing about my name is it has a terrible spelling. So my last name is Keener, but it has a bunch of extra letters in there. Don't be intimidated by that. There is no other Elizabeth Keener alive on this earth right now that I have been able to find. So if you find me, it's me. Reach out. Don't be a stranger. And let me know how I can help you, because I'm happy to.
I know we didn't have. I do have a very important question that I think is essential, that I find fascinating as a woman in business, and I think it's really important. You're a mom, you're a wife, you're an entrepreneur. Like, what's your best advice to keeping that all together?
My best advice is having a supportive partner, whoever that partner might be. The fact that my husband very happily is really the domestic force in our family is allows me to do what I do, and it works for him too, because he is an introvert, so he's kind of happier at home anyway. So it's a funny balance, and fortunate that we found each other. But I think that that's really important, to have that person in your life that can have your back and give you air cover when you need it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's always amazing. I know when I come back to RIT, I always feel so much motivation, inspiration, and it's without exception to hear you speak today, and just keep, life and travels and business. So thank you again for being here. Really amazing. It's time for the short mix and mingle break. If I could bring that piece of paper with me one more time. But does everybody have we don't have it. I'm going to get it. I've grabbed it 3 times. So if you don't have this card, okay? So today, really networking. You never know who you've completely got at your table in the room. So the goal is really to connect with 3 people in the room, if not more. Put them on the back. And really, it's trying to get, if you want to exchange LinkedIn, your emails, cell phone numbers. The power of the women in the room and the connections you'll make today will go so far, and sometimes you never know where that will be. So take advantage of this mix and mingle. If you don't have this card, it's at the front table. And we'll see you back at 9:45. It totally, if you didn't hear me the first time, it breaks my heart when I see so much good communicating, networking, and energy going on to get you to break that up. But we have plenty of that during the day. So I hope you met some great people already in our first mix and mingle. We do have our first panel, and this is on negotiation. And I have a question for everybody. How many of you are awesome at coaching your colleagues and getting them to do something, but really bad at taking your own advice? Yeah. So when I saw this panel and the title of it, My Story, Hospitality, in 1993, when I came out of RIT and went to Washington, D.C., I remember very vividly getting just the gusto to go to my boss, because I felt that this year's raise was kind of meager. I was one of only women on a corporate executive team, and I didn't feel that the raise that I had got was commiserate with the work that I had done in the year. I remember very vividly, just call him Bob. Bob, I'd like to have a meeting. Okay, sit down, ask for said raise. It was a quick no. Okay, we're done here. Never asked for another raise in my life, to this day. To this day. So this topic to me is near and dear to my heart, and I really hope you get something out of it. It's going to be a great talk. We're going to have great questions. But let's get the panel up here and get this started, because this is a huge, huge topic that women, we need to be so much better at this, ladies, 100%. So let's begin by inviting our panelists to come up on the stage. First, we have Dr. Joy Alabasi. She's an associate professor of management at Saunders College of Business. She also currently serves as the director of undergraduate global business management program. Her research interests include an understanding of how organizations learn and manage knowledge, especially through the effective utilization of teams. She is particularly interested in team performance, especially within virtual and project-based context. She's also interested in social entrepreneurial initiatives within emerging markets with a social embeddedness and network emphasis. Dr. Olabasi has been published in peer-reviewed journals and conference proceedings and has also presented her research at numerous conferences internationally. She has received the Saunders College of Business Exemplary Performance in Teaching and Student Impact Award and has been nominated for the Provost Award in Excellence in Teaching. I would like to invite Christina Floyd to join us from First American. Christina provides commercial financing to top law firms across the country. Christina has used the power of negotiation to drive new business in competitive marketplace and was most recently named First American's Salesperson of the Year in 2022. Yeah. Throughout her career, Christina has served in sales and client service roles and has honored her relationship building and problem-solving skills. Outside of work, Christina is a mother of 2 boys and regularly supports her Rochester community. Our next panelist is Barbara Ansack. As a proud RIT alumna, Barbara will be serving 35 years with Rochester Regional Health this month. Woohoo! Throughout her career at RRH, she has worked in many different facets within human resources and recruitment, onboarding, new hire orientation, compensation, benefits, and employee relations. She finds recruitment to be most rewarding where she enjoys developing and executing recruitment strategies for attracting top talent, meeting prospects, getting to know them, and matching them to that position that is the right fit. Today, Barbara oversees a very talented team of college campus recruiters that develop relationships with local and regional clinical programs. She increases awareness of clinical career opportunities within the RRH health system and helps keep locally trained talent in Western New York, as well as attract new talent to this beautiful area. So once again, let's welcome this fantastic panel. So I know I kind of teed it up out there, like negotiation and how bad I was at it and refused to do it anymore. But before we get into that, is there anything you want to tell us additionally about yourselves personally? Like who you are, or
Is this on? It's on?
Yeah.
Okay. Personally, I am a mother of 2 beautiful adult daughters, very successful. One is amazing at negotiating. She negotiated her rent in New York during the height of the pandemic. Had it go down. And the other one is a scientist, not good at negotiating at all. So she calls her mom for advice when she's in the process of receiving a new offer. And then I have a grand pug. Her name is Olive. She is adorable. No grandkids yet, so I'm waiting, fingers crossed. So guys, good thoughts out there that these girls will give me a couple grandkids, because that's all I want, and I'll be a happy woman.
Christina?
Thank you. I felt like that biography was really...
It was.
Right? Very, very great bios of all of us. So you had mentioned, so I have 2 sons, and I live with my husband in Hilton, and we have quite a bit of land on in our property, and so something else a little bit outside of that bio, that was we are planning a major Easter egg hunt right now. So we like to have 100+ people, a bunch of kids. My mom's the bunny, don't tell the kids. And so that's something that I'm doing. And we ask everyone to bring diapers or wipes, and then we donate to the Junior League of Rochester, which supports the diaper bank.
Oh. Joy?
Yes, so good morning, everyone, and thanks for that intro as well. I think something that wasn't mentioned was how much I love the topic of negotiation. I teach it here in Saunders at the undergraduate, graduate, and I just co-taught the executive MBA course on negotiation. So I think what really encourages me and gives me some empowerment is seeing how especially women, and especially my undergrads, come in and don't believe that they have the capability of advocating for themselves. And after 3-4 months of us just talking through basic negotiation concepts, working through cases, they leave knowing that preparation is half the battle, and understanding and going in, knowing your worth, and also knowing how to advocate for yourselves is a big part of getting what you want, and aligning your wants with the wants of the employer that you're negotiating with. On a personal note, I've got 3 daughters, so I feel like and their ages are 9, 6, and 3. So I feel like I'm negotiating with them every day. I get on the road practice every day. I'm always hearing, let's make a deal. I'm always hearing, if you do this, then I'll do this. You guys can probably, many of you can probably relate. So at work and at home, I'm negotiating all the time.
Sometimes I tell my kids when they're trying to negotiate, I go, think of a better argument, and then we'll discuss later.
Yeah. I love that. And one of the notes that I put in here as well was the word advocating and working with children and a lot of incoming freshmen. The first question I'd put out there is, can you talk about the difference between advocating as it pertains to negotiating? Because sometimes people, they want to negotiate for something, but they're not necessarily fully comprehending how to advocate for themselves. And we see this a lot of times with kids coming to college. So advocating, I just think there's a piece that's missing. That like advocating for yourself seems to be a core piece of ultimately negotiating where you want to be and what you want to get. Is there a difference?
Yeah. No, I was going to say, yeah, so to me, when I have a candidate who's negotiating the offer, right? The biggest pet peeve I have is when they say things like, well, I can't live on this salary, I have bills, putting my kids through college, my husband lost his job, we're remodeling the house, and I need more money. That's not my problem as the employer. That's your problem as you have to budget, right? What I appreciate is when the candidate advocates for themselves as far as what can they bring to the table. What is their skill set? Maybe they have a unique skill or education that we are missing in the organization today, and it's like, wow, you've got this great data analytical skill set. I need that on my recruitment team, right? That is more powerful to me because you're advocating for yourself, what skills you can bring to us, maybe what accomplishments you have had in the past, and how can those accomplishments, how can you bring that to my team? That's what I'm looking for when we're looking to negotiate. So it's really about talking about yourself and what you can bring, and not about what your needs are. That makes sense?
Good point.
And I think I'll piggyback off of that. So taking it a step further, when you're advocating for yourself, if you've been within the role for a number of years now, and people feel like just by virtue of tenure, meaning they've been in that role for a number of years, they automatically deserve a raise. And I think people forget that they also still need to keep advocating in the terms of, okay, what have I done so far? What value has it brought to the organization? If you have actual data and the impact in terms of millions or number of clients reached or what have you, to show that I've been here for X number of years, but I've also done this work that impacts the organization. So again, negotiation is a win-win. It's a we problem, right? This is what the problem is. I want to get more money, and I feel like I'm not getting paid in alignment with the work that I've done, or in terms of the market compensation of what I'm worth right now. So let's both work together to get there. So that's what I would also add to that.
And I wholeheartedly agree. I think that advocating starts with a belief in yourself. There's a lot of things that can be negotiated. I mean, I've negotiated my suburban disposal bill, right? That's not necessarily advocating. It's not rooted in a deep belief in myself, but we're talking about something like a job offer and the skills that you're bringing to the table, that you really have to believe in that.
What's the best way to prepare for a negotiation conversation?
I always like to write down 2 to 3 points that I want to mention and I want to bring up. I feel that being prepared and having thought ahead of time, if you know you're going into that conversation, you need to formulate your thoughts. And if there are key phrases that you want to say, I will write down those key phrases so when I'm in the moment, I can remember them. I also like to practice saying things out loud, which I think might sound a little bit silly to some folks. I had mentioned I live in Hilton. I work all the way by Eastview Mall, so I have a pretty long commute. And I oftentimes, when I have a presentation, will be saying things out loud in my car because I think it's so helpful to be able to verbalize those words and get them out of your mouth. Because if the first time you're vocalizing something is in the heat of the moment, you're much more likely to get tripped up there.
Sure.
I think too, understanding what is your bottom line, like understanding this is where I've done my research on this position, I've done the research on this industry, I feel this is what I'm worth, right? What is your bottom line, and understanding that before you get the offer. And also, I would say, be prepared to ask questions about what else does that opportunity have to offer you. So sometimes, I always tell my new grad nursing students and my new grad PA students that it's more than a paycheck. What else does this organization have to offer you that is truly of value to you? Is it furthering your education on their dime? That is a huge asset, right? Is it more vacation? Like that is also a huge plus for some individuals. Is it working from home, perhaps? Save a lot of money on travel, right? So be prepared to ask all those benefit and perk questions as well.
So one thing we usually work on when we're doing negotiation cases in class is what we call a planning document, which really emphasizes much of what my co-panelists have said right now. To sort of write down your walkaway point, your initial offer, your first offer. So you knowing that you're not going to get your first offer, but what's their initial ask? And then your target point. What's that sweet spot that you're going to be happy with? So initial offer may be 10% raise. Let's just use an example. Your target point might be, between 7 and 8% raise, and then your bottom line might be like a 3% raise. Okay. So, but having these numbers clearly in your mind, understanding that you may not get that, the 10%, but knowing that if someone says, okay, I'll give you 2%, opening the conversation and making that first offer, and knowing that when you make a first offer, you potentially anchor the conversation. So if you go into a conversation and you say, I think I need a raise. What do you think you might want to give me? The opposing party now sets the anchor down, right? So the person opposing says, I think I want to give you 3%. But in your notes, you have, well, I think I want 10%. They've already anchored it at 3%, right? If you go in and you sort of do your homework, again, why do you want that raise? What value do you bring to the organization? What are the comps, right? So if you're getting paid less than what the comps is right now, so this is a lot of homework that you're doing ahead of time. Then you have the tools to really ask for that 10% raise. The person may come back and say, no, well, I think I want to give you a 4% raise. At that point, you may still push back and say, well, actually, this is sort of the reason why I think I'd like if we can get it closer to that 10%. And then if you walk up with the 7 or 8, then you're closer to your target point. So those are just some initial things that I encourage individuals to sort of work on. The other thing that I would say is to think about what your alternatives are. If you don't get if they say no, that's okay. A no is okay. It's not a failure. You've already sort of laid the groundwork for a future ask. They know that this is something that you've done the homework on and that you desire. And so it puts the groundwork for you to potentially make a future ask 6 months down the line. If they say no, you can potentially say, would you mind if we revisited this in another few months? Right? So the conversation keeps going. So those are a couple of things that I would say to prepare.
Sure, and it's funny, and I'm up here like, oh yeah. And I'm like, already told you the story, like I was so bad at it, never went back at it. So it's inspiring information for me too. So was there a personal example you could give of a personal success in your own negotiation that you want to share? You could keep any company anonymous or?
My most favorite negotiation story from the last couple years does not come out of my career. It comes out of my personal life. So my parents love negotiating. They're the type of people that buy a car on the coldest day of the year because they're going to wear their snowsuits and they're going to negotiate outside. So this is what I grew up with. And so my husband and I were buying new furniture, and we went to a couple different places. We picked out we decided what we were gonna get, and we didn't have time to actually go and buy it. I think we had to pick up the kids or something. So the next day, I call up my father and go, "Hey, Dad, wanna come buy some furniture with me?" So excited. I'll get my shoes on. When are we going? And so we were buying a couch, and as we're buying this couch, and I'm hysterically laughing because my father is doing the negotiation on my couch. And my mom texts us, and she's like, are you gonna get pillows too? Don't forget to get pillows. Now, the couch actually came with multiple decorative pillows on it. My dad reads that, and he goes and gets up from, how we're buying this furniture, and goes and takes 2 pillows off of a random bed, and he's like, we're gonna take these 2. These are gonna be... So at this point, I'm not keeping a straight. I'm not being a good straight woman at this point. The sales guy's laughing, and so my dad and I had this really fun experience. But my professional takeaways for it were it's always okay to phone a friend, right? There's probably people in your life that are really good at negotiating. So if you have an opportunity to ask one of them a question before you're getting your job or something like that, certainly do it. The second thing is just have a little fun with it. Like, we had a great time furniture buying. This was fun. This wasn't some scary negotiation. This was a good time. And then also the path is not always linear. Sometimes you gotta go, grab the pillows to close the deal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. I would like to be a fly on the wall there watching the pillow. That's right.
Goodness. I still have the pillows. They're very nice.
Anybody else?
I think I learned negotiation from your parents, because I'm a hardcore car negotiator. Like, this is my price and that's it. Took my daughter to buy her first car. She was 18 years old. It was her graduation gift, and she saved $10,000. Her savings, her gifts, and everything, and saw this beautiful Beetle, and it was way more than $10,000, and it was used. And I'm there with my daughter, and I'm hardcore. I said, no, this is all she has. This is what she can afford. And the dealer's like, Mom, can't you throw in a little bit of money? No, I'm not throwing in a little bit of money. And I was ready to walk. My daughter's eyes are tearing up. We got the car for $10,000. And it was beautiful, yellow bug with the eyelashes. And, I'm very hard. When it comes to cars, I'm hardcore. It's like, this is my price, and you're not giving it to me, I'm walking out the door. And I've always been successful. The one thing I would say, so I told you I have one daughter who's very awesome at negotiating. The other one is kind of shy and doesn't like to, she's nervous. She's always scared I'm not gonna get the offer if I push. So she got a new offer with a research company in New Haven, Connecticut. The offer came, it wasn't much lower. It was like $2,000 lower than what she was hoping for. So she calls me. What do I do? What do I say? She's all nervous. So I said, you can go back and say, hey, I was expecting this amount. If they say no, see if they'll help you relocate. Because I go, that's a huge plus if they could give you a couple thousand to help you move everything out to New Haven. She was very nervous, but she did it. And I said to her, do it call. I don't like the back and forth emails. I like to get that recruiter on the phone and actually have that opportunity to have that dialogue. Because I agree with you guys, it's a win-win, right? You're going to get a great scientist, and all you really, if you can't meet her rate, help her with the move, right? In the end, they wouldn't budge on the salary, but they did agree to help her with her move, which was huge.
Yeah.
And she calls and she goes, oh my gosh, okay, I got everything I wanted. I go, get it in writing.
Right?
Now, I want that in the offer letter that they're gonna move you. So, again, yeah, I think it's all about, don't be nervous. I mean, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Right?
So mine's kind of a bit off the beaten path. Our house needed new toilets. So this is probably about 3-4 years ago. And so I'm always trying to I love negotiating, as I've said. You know, I like negotiating cars and et cetera. So, and I feel like you shouldn't ever pay sticker price for something. So I'm looking up deals on toilets. Got some for all the toilets in our bathroom in our house. So got some on Home Depot. Our handyman, who's a friend of mine, installed it. And I looked at it and I was like, it looks like it's barely bigger than a toddler potty. You know what I mean? It was tiny. And I was like, will this thing be efficient? I don't like it. I feel like, you know, and he's like, well, they're more efficient these days than they are in the past. But it just looks like it's and I was like, I don't like these toilets. So my husband said, sleep on it. And I said, I think I want to take it back. He's like, you can't take a toilet back. It's been installed. And there were, yeah. So I woke up and I was like, I don't like these toilets. And so we were looking up the rules on Home Depot. You know, toilets are hazardous material, as it turns out, so you can't take it back. And so I was like, no, I'm gonna just walk into Home. At this point, I was pregnant with my third, so I had the little belly to help me out too. So so I walked into Home Depot and I was thinking about, like, what should I say that, you know, about did something happen? I was like, no, I'm just gonna be honest. And so I walked in and I said, you know, these toilets were much smaller than I thought. I actually had looked at Lowe's, and the truth is I had looked at Lowe's, and Lowe's had some that were on sale that were the ones that I actually wanted, the Voltrex, but they were, but I wanted to do business with Home Depot. And so I told them, and she said, well, you know, it's hazardous material. I said, I understand that. I said, you know, but Lowe's has some that were on sale, but we were driving by, we decided to go with you guys anyway, and, you know, if you can, it's okay, but I really don't like these toilets. And I don't know what, you know, she gave me 3 new toilets, 3 of the Voltrex the ones that I wanted, and said, if you can bring back the ones that weren't. I said, did you already install the other ones? I said, yeah, but I literally have the receipt from the ones that I installed before. And she said, you know, if you can bring them back and by today, and you know, I will have these other ones for you to pick up. And so called my handyman, and he was like, you what? Said, you got them? He's like, what did you say? I said, you know, we just had a conversation. I told her that I really didn't like these toilets, and that Lowe's had the same ones on sale, and I showed her the Lowe's paper, and, you know, Lowe's and Home Depot are competitors, and so not only did they give me the toilets, but they matched Lowe's discounted price for the ones that I wanted. And so you can come over to my house and use the nice Voltrex toilets anytime you want to. But that was a situation where, you know, I was leaning towards not asking, my husband was leaning towards not asking, but I thought, you know, what's the worst they can say? They can say no. But in that case, they didn't, so.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, I love all that. Kind of shifting gears a little bit in the what not to do in negotiation, like the red line, red flags, like any tips, like you've been in these, seen people in front of you, or have you experienced, like, I can't believe they just did that? Like, what would you tell anybody what not to do?
Don't apologize would be one of my first things. Especially women have a tendency, oh, I'm so sorry. No, don't apologize for asking the question. And I would also say don't over talk. Once you ask for X or whatever it might be, then be silent. And that's very, very difficult sometimes, but that is the other person's point to respond. You don't want to over talk that.
I would say don't feel pressure to take a bad deal. Walking away is always an option. If you've done your homework and you know what a bad deal is, and you know that they're not budging from offering something that's below what you felt like you deserve, you can say, let me think about it. So don't make hasty decisions. Okay, take the time to think about it. But even after thinking about it, it's okay to still say no.
I agree with both of you, and like I said before, don't make it personal about your finances ever. That's, I agree to take a pause. Because if you talk too much, that's when all that personal stuff comes out, and it's like, I shouldn't have said that. I would say, take a pause, but don't wait too long. If you're going to pause and not call your recruiter back for 5 days, that recruiter is going to be like, okay, we're done. This person's lost interest in us. I love making an offer on a Friday. That's my thing. Make the offer on a Friday, and I want that candidate to take the weekend to think about it, talk with their family, talk with their friends, really mull over it. And then we always agree that, hey, let's touch base Monday. If you still need another day or two, I'm fine with that, but let's talk on Monday. And that gives that individual time to come up with all those additional questions. Like I said, be prepared with asking about other benefits if you can't get that rate you're looking for. Maybe there's other perks that really are important to you. So come prepared and have that dialogue.
On that subject of quantifying benefits as it pertains to salaries and asking for things, we're in a whole new era after COVID, and working at home seems to be. Is there any other, throwing out there any other list of things that you could quantify that the group here may not be I never thought about that? So working at home versus there's some wellness things that people are kicking in there, and how to truly quantify a benefits package. If it's not totally salary, there's so many other ways to get your compensation, your complete compensation package up.
I would say, if you're in pensions, 401ks, are they matching them? Tuition, if you want to advance your degree, is that employer going to be able to give you tuition reimbursement? What does that look like? Are there any yearly bonuses? Perhaps the salary wasn't quite what you wanted, but the company does a yearly bonus. Maybe the company offers stock options, vacation, wellness. As far as I can tell you, at RRH today, we offer a employee a mental health packet. 5 sessions are free to you and your loved ones, and it's whatever you need. I'm in, my son, I think, has an alcohol problem. You can go see a counselor, and they give you 5 free sessions, and if you need more sessions, then they'll refer you to a specialist at a low cost, obviously all in network. Maybe they have a free gym membership. Perhaps they're offering student loan repayment. We just started offering that at Rochester Regional, and that's huge. If you're a student and you're coming out with $75,000, $100,000 in loans, and your employer can help you pay down that loan every month, that's a huge benefit. The other thing, with our organization, it's through the federal government, but because RGH serves a high underserved patient population, our nurses can actually get loan forgiveness, and all they need to do is work for us for 2 years. So those are amazing perks outside of an annual salary.
I would also add, so First American has volunteer time off, and so we get a couple days of year that we can go and volunteer to causes that are impactful to us. But just in general, the company has a lot of charitable initiatives, and they really support colleagues in doing those and spearheading those and bringing those to the company. So I think that that's something that can be looked at as well. Additionally, parental leave policies, they have gotten better in the last couple of years, certainly than where they were 10 years ago. But I would really look at that if that's something that might be in your future, as well as different sick time policies and what those look like, and disability policies and things like that.
So one story comes to mind to the point that the question that you just asked. One of our recent grads got a job offer at Google, and he's Chinese, and his parents are in China, and so he wanted a month-long vacation in China month-long vacation from Google every year to be able to go to China to see his parents. And Google had a sort of a stringent, 2 or 3 week, at least for entry-level employees. And so that's sort of where they were stuck. So he's like, this is almost a deal breaker for me, but I really love this opportunity. I want to work for Google. I think he was a software engineer. And they was like, well, no, this is our entry-level policy. It's 2 to 3 weeks. He was at a month, 2 to 3 weeks. And so, we talked with him and we said, well, why do you want a month? He said, well, I want to go and visit my parents. I don't see them all the time, and I want to see them during this 1 month. And I said, well, did you tell Google that? Did you tell the recruiter that, the HR department? And he said, well, no, because, again, we don't want to share everything, right? So you're going to sort of balance what you share. But in this situation, this particular interest was of interest to Google. And so he said, no, I didn't, I can't really say what I want to do with my vacations, my personal time. I said, well, in this situation, we think it might be worthwhile for you to share. And so he did. He went back and said, this is the reason why I'm asking for a month. And he was even willing to take a lesser salary. That's how important this was for him. And so they said, well, we actually have an office not too far from your parents in China. So you can travel there during that month and work from our Chinese office, or Shanghai or Beijing, I don't remember where, and then still see your parents, and then you still keep your 2-week vacation for actual vacation time that you want. So this is a situation where vacation was important to him as well, but because he made the ask and provided the information around the ask he was making, they were able to sort of come to a win-win situation.
Wonderful, wonderful. Any advice you'd give your younger self? So I know that, believe it or not, because I teed up like a terrible story, but it didn't wind up terrible. But one of the quotes that was in my yearbook was, diplomacy is the art of letting someone have your way. And while I never really asked for increases, it was always just like hard work. And I really reflect back now, and through having a great degree and in hospitality, I made the most money I could ever possibly make in the role that I had, managing partner, cut of top line sales. I didn't ask for it. I mean, the company was really great, but the hard work got me there. So there's things that I would tell my younger self, particularly with the quote that was in my yearbook that I didn't completely use early on as well as I do now. But what would you tell your younger self now, if you knew then?
I think to be your authentic self is early in your career as you can. And what I mean by that is, there was a period of time when I was a younger salesperson starting out that I would look at people that were very successful in my companies and would try to emulate what they were doing, which is not a bad strategy, especially when you're starting out. But they have natural strengths that I just will never have. And I can try my hardest, but everyone's just gonna have their own God-given abilities. And so where I started to find more success was when I just decided to lean into my strengths and be my authentic self, and just having kind of the mindset that my strengths can propel me forward far more than any weaknesses or deficiencies can hold me back.
Maybe not around negotiation, but I always say yes to a challenge. Don't ever feel that, oh my gosh, my skill sets aren't there. I'm not strong enough to do this. I'm not smart enough to do this. I've been at Rochester Regional for 35 years because I've always had amazing female leaders, believe it or not. I mean, females, but it's healthcare. We tend to be predominantly female, but I've always had a leader that pushed me and said to me, I want you to take this on. I did everything. I got into comp, into employee relations, because somebody always was saying, I need you, I know you can do this. And I was always a bit like, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I don't have the skill set. But, I was pushed, and thank God, because I wouldn't be where I am today without these amazing leaders, pushing me to move forward. So don't ever think you're not smart enough or you don't have the skills to do it. Say yes, and I always hope that all of you have a strong leader that helps you, mentors you, and if you do fail, it's okay. I always tell my own team, I'm big on let's throw all the ideas out there, let's try everything. If it doesn't work, it's okay. We know now what to do differently next time. That's what I would advise.
Anything from you, Joe?
Yeah, I think what you're both just saying, I think I own that as well. I think, comparison is the thief of joy. We always want to compare ourselves with others and not stay in our own lanes. But one thing that I've also thought about in terms of maybe not necessarily negotiation oriented is whenever you're stressed, try to zoom out a little bit. In that moment, it's stressful. In that moment, it's challenging. But if you think to yourself, how much will this matter 10, 15 years from now? Whatever issue I'm stressing over right now. Instead of trying to have that big picture mentality. There have been situations, there have been positions that I interviewed for. There was a consulting firm, one of the larger consulting firms that I was interviewing for. I made it to the last round and I didn't get it. And you would have thought that was the worst thing in the world. I mean, I was devastated because I spent a lot of time preparing for this. But looking back now, 15 or so years later, I'm glad it didn't work out. I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. But at that time, it was extremely devastating. So try and zoom out when you're stressed.
Yeah. Wonderful. I'm sure we've got some questions in the audience. Who's got a question on negotiation?
Oh, yeah, I can talk to that. So, as an employer, we do have pay grades for each position. And if you, sometimes it is challenging for us to truly negotiate for a title where we hire perhaps, let's say, I'm going to use the example of physician assistants. You guys have an amazing program here. We hire all of them. If I have 500 physician assistants in the system and I have a pay range based on their years of experience and the specialty that they're going to work out of, if I'm a new grad coming out of school, I can't negotiate with you, right? This is you're a new grad, here's the rate for this particular service line. Now, I can talk to you about growth opportunities down the road, right? Gain that 2 years experience, you can transfer to a surgical department perhaps, maybe you can become a lead, and this is where you're gonna be able to get that growth opportunity. So with new grads, I talk about where can we get you, right? I can't give you more money now because this is the flat rate for a new grad, but here's what we can do in our organization to help you advance and get you to either a different title or a higher level. If you are in a title that is one-off and very unique, and we need your particular skill set, that's when we have some wiggle room. And what we may not be able to give you that rate right off the bat, but what I've negotiated with some candidates is we may be hiring you to solve an issue, right? Or solve, maybe change something for us within this department. If you hit these first two goals, let's agree that we'll give you a 5K increase. And after a year, if you're able to achieve these next two goals that we need from you, let's agree to give you a 10K increase. And I will put that in writing for an individual. But that's sometimes where, like from an employer, sometimes our hands are tied with the pay rate, and sometimes our hands are tied with vacation. We can't give you more than 4 weeks, let's say. But we will work with you to see what else we can do. Bonuses are big. Sometimes we'll give an individual a bonus to meet that gap, you know. 'Cause we've done that a lot before too. Was that help?
Any other questions? Yes. Oh, we have a mic for you.
I just had a quick question on your experience. I mean, I'm fairly young, so I don't have a lot of experience, but I have tried negotiating in the past for certain roles that I've had, and have been successful. I've gotten success out of those negotiations, but in 2 cases, in 2 different organizations, they didn't follow through with those. Do you have any experience and advice in, I mean, I love my job now, but in those situations where you kind of negotiated and they promised something and then didn't follow through with it, how do you, I mean, I just walked away from the organization, to be honest, because it wasn't a good fit for me because without that. But what would you suggest? I mean, helping those organizations see that those promises are important, especially for young people in their careers, and have you had any experience with that in particular?
So that's awful. I'm sorry that happened. Did you get that, though, in writing? Or was it just a verbal? You got it in writing, and then they said, sorry?
They said after 8 months I could, go on a track to a higher position, and then, after 6 months. And then I was there for 6 months, and I said, okay, I'm ready for the track to the higher position. They're like, oh, well, we can't get you on that for another year. And I said, you said after 6 months, and wrote it down, for me. And then another one was similar to the vacation. I have family abroad, and we usually spend, 2-3 weeks, maybe even more, visiting them every other year. And in this particular organization, they said, we can't give you more than 10 days vacation, but you can always take extra days off without pay if you need to visit your family. Well, I did that, and they came back to me with, well, we really didn't like that you did that. It's like, well, you literally wrote it in my job offer that you would let me do that. So both of those gave me kind of the ick, and I was like, I have to walk away from that.
I mean, there are people that negotiate in bad faith, and it sounds like you did a lot of things right. You got it in writing, you followed up, you pursued it, and if they're not going to honor what they said, it might have been the right thing to move on from those companies.
Was there a higher up that you could have talked to? Did you explore? Yeah.
There's a lot of companies that just, they don't follow through, and they're just like thinking they'll just stay anyway, especially with young people.
I have heard of the bait and switch. So they'll bait you, and then they'll change their mind or say, oh, well, yeah, I know I told you in 6 months, but there's no openings today. You have to wait. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I'm so sorry.
And if there really isn't an opportunity in 6 months, and if they offer something else in its place, if they're getting into a conversation, but it sounds like they didn't do that, right? Like they didn't offer any.
I feel like we could have a whole day or a half session on negotiation and the offshoots that come from it. But unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for today. But if you have questions, feel free. We have the next Mix and Mingle coming up to talk to any of the ladies with any of the questions that you have. So we're going to take a little break and come back at 10:45. I do want to point out, First American does have a great table over here. So stop by and see them and say hello to them as well. So enjoy your break. I want to see lots more mixing and mingling, and thank you so much, ladies. On a wellness workshop, how many people need more wellness activities in their life? Is there too much? I know I don't get enough. I got to work it in. I have to make an effort. Schedule it. Write it down. I'm excited for our next speaker, Claudette Iono. She'll be leading us with a wellness workshop featuring chair yoga to help you rediscover your inner power. Welcome. Claudette was born and raised in Western New York and then attended and graduated RIT with a bachelor's degree in biotechnology. She has spent the last 3 decades of her professional career working in different laboratories and research centers. In 2018, she and her husband, Ike, yes, a native of Samoa, founded Island Fit, a small fitness studio located in Henrietta, offering personal training, cycling, high-intensity interval training, and yoga classes to our community. Island Fit is a minority women-owned business where Claudette serves as the president. Claudette is a certified cycling coach and yoga teacher in which she encourages her students to explore opportunities for spiritual, physical, emotional growth through each movement and each breath. Namaste.
Thank you. So again, I'm Claudette Iono, and we're going to do a chair yoga session. If you're going to participate, turn your chairs facing me. So yoga means to join or yoke body, mind, and spirit. And the aim of yoga is to bring balance back into your life, back into the body. So we're going to first start with our Ujjayi breath, which is an ocean breath. And it's good for helping you relax, lower the blood pressure, mental clarity, and focus. So if everybody can stand up. And you want to ground down into all 4 corners of your feet, palms facing forward. And you can close your eyes if you like, but we're going to inhale and circle the arms up. Inhale for a count of 4. Palms touch. Exhale, hands to heart center. Now when you're inhaling, you want to seal the lips and inhale through the nose for 4 counts and exhale through the nose for 4 counts. Okay, let's try it. Down. Circle your arms up, inhale. Exhale, hands to heart center. Again, inhale. Exhale. Great job. Now let's have a seat, and we'll start with our first side twist here. So you want your knees over your ankles, and we're going to take our right hand and cross the body and grab the chair. Here, take your left hand around the back of the chair and look to your side for a twist. So you want to, while you're twisting, you're inhaling for 4 counts through the nose and exhaling for 4 counts through the nose. Again, inhale, exhale. One more time, inhale and exhale. Back to center. Now we'll do the opposite side. Take your left hand, cross the body. You can grab the chair, right hand around the back, and you're going to twist. Your spine is tall, your gaze is to the side. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale. One more time. Inhale and exhale. Great. Back to center. So now we're going to come all the way to the edge of our seat, and we're going to do some mini sun salutations. Always keep your knees over your ankles, palms to the side. So we're going to inhale, circle your arms up, palms touch. As you exhale, you're going to fold all the way down to the floor. Palms touching, drop your head. All right? Inhale, halfway lift. Bring your hands to your shins. Your back is long. Your neck is straight ahead. Exhale, fold, bend over again. Now you're going to ground down into your feet and bring yourself all the way up. Circle your arms up, palms touch. Exhale, hands to heart center. Great job. Let's try that again. Hands down. Inhale, circle your arms up. Exhale, we're gonna fold all the way down. Pull the navel in, drop the head. You're resting your chest right on your lap here. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold again. Ground down into your heels and bring yourself all the way up. Circle your arms up. Exhale, hands to heart center. One more time. Inhale, circle your arms up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Drop the head. Relax the shoulders. Inhale, ground down into your feet and come all the way up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Great job. So now we can sit back some. We're gonna try a warrior two pose. So you might need a little more space. So you wanna come to the side and you're just gonna rest your thigh on the chair, knee over ankle. And you're gonna take your back leg and extend it long. Now, this is our leg pose. Now, if you can't get your back leg long, we have modification. This is your modification here, all right? If you can get it long, we're long. Extend your arms wide. Yes, your gaze is forward, looking over the fingertips of your left hand. Now let's do our Ujjayi breath. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. One more time. Inhale and exhale. Now we're going to reverse our warrior. Palm face up. Bring that hand all the way up to the ceiling. Your back hand is down your leg here. You have the option to take your hand and wrap it around your waist. You're reaching up to the sky. Your gaze is up. Start your Ujjayi breath. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. One more time. Inhale and exhale. Release back to warrior two. All right. So now we're going to do extended side angle. Drop your forearm right on your thigh. Now you want to use your torso to keep yourself up. You don't want to lean into it. Use your torso, keep yourself up, and then bring your right arm over, extended side angle. Your bicep is right at your ear. Gaze up and start your breath. You want to breathe with intention. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. One more time. Inhale and exhale. All right, let's release back to center. Shake it out. Shake those hips out. All right, so now we're going to do the opposite side. Yes. Knee over ankle. And you can extend your back leg back. Now, if you can't get your leg here, remember the modification. Just keep a slight bend in your knee. All right? Toes are pointed forward, arms extending long. Your gaze is straight ahead to the right. Inhale and exhale. Drop your shoulders down. Inhale and exhale. One more breath. Inhale and exhale. All right, we're going to reverse our warrior. Flip that palm up and bring your hand all the way up. Your left hand down the leg or wrapped around your waist for a side bend. Inhale, reach to the sky. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. One more. Exhale. Back to warrior two. Extending long. And just reach out like somebody's pulling your arms at each end. Now we're going to do our extended side angle. Drop your forearm down to your thigh and reach up and over. Bicep at your ear. Your gaze is up. Breathing. Don't forget your breath. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. One more in and exhale. Release back to center. Great job. Great job. All right. We're going to do a twist. I want you to take your right leg and cross it over. You're going to cross your right hand over your leg. You can grab the chair. And again, take your right, go around to the back of the chair. Your shoulders are down, you're nice and tall. And let's take some breaths here. Nice and tall, inhale and exhale. In and out. One more time, in and out. Let's release, and we're going to do the opposite side. Yes, cross your left over your right. Your spine is always nice and tall. Bring your right arm over, grab the chair, left arm behind the back of the chair. Your gaze is to the side, your shoulders are down. Inhale and exhale. In and out. One more time, in and out. Great job. Let's release. Let's do a little neck work. I want you to take your right arm out at a 45-degree angle. You're going to grab the chair with your left, and I want you to take your left ear and bring it all the way down to your shoulder as far as you can to feel that stretch in the neck there. Let's breathe here with intention. One more in and out. Let's release and do the opposite side. So your left is at 45 degrees. You're grabbing onto the chair base, and you want to take your right ear all the way down to your right shoulder. And stretch and breathe. Inhale and exhale. In and out. One more time, in and out. Let's release. So next we'll do a reclined pigeon pose. You want to scoot all the way to the edge of your seat, and you want to take your right ankle and bring it to your left knee. Now, if this is a stretch, we have a modification. You can extend your leg long and just rest your ankle here, all right? So I want you to let gravity do its work and just let that knee fall down. Hands are down, shoulders are down, spine is nice and tall. And breathe in here and out. In and out. One more in and out. Now I want you to grab the chair and try to lean forward. And you don't want to round. You don't want to round your back like this. Keep your back nice and strong and long, and just lean forward and feel that stretch in the glutes back there, and breathe into the stretch. Pull the navel in. Inhale. One more inhale. All right, let's release it down. And we're going to do the opposite side. Take your left ankle onto the right knee. Drop the arms, drop the shoulders. Sit up nice and tall and breathe with intention. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. In and out. Now let's grab the chair and lean forward, keeping the back nice and long. You don't want to round the shoulders. Keep them nice and long and forward. Breathe in and out. In and out. One more in Let's release. All right. So here is a more difficult pose here. I want you to take your knee, come to the edge, take your knee and bring your knee into the chest as much as you can, and we're gonna rotate the ankle, all right? All right. Now I want you to extend your left arm long, holding that knee in, yes. Great job. And we're standing up nice and tall. So now keep the ankle still. We're gonna release that right hand and extend it and keep the knee up, all right? Like so, hold that knee up. That knee is up to the ceiling. Push, breathe in. Yes, exhale. In again, exhale. And release. Very good, shake it out. Very good. Feeling those tight hip flexors, huh? All right, let's do the opposite side. Let's bring that knee into the chest and circle the ankle. Nice. All right, hold it here, extend the right arm out. Remember, your spine is nice and tall. Inhale and exhale. Again. Now we're going to release. Keep that knee up as high as you can get it. Breathe, lift your chin. One more in. Release. All right, very good, very good. All right, so our last pose, we're gonna go into goddess pose. So we wanna just open the legs wide. You're at the edge of your seat, you're resting your hands on your knees, your spine is nice and tall. So from here, let's inhale, circle the arms up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Again, circle the arms up, inhale. Palms touch, exhale, hands to heart center. Great. Now let's grab the knees. From here, we're gonna take that right shoulder and drop it in. As you drop in your shoulder in, push that knee away. Yes, breathe into the stretch here. You should feel that in your hip flexors. Breathe in. I don't see you breathing. You're holding your breath. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. All right, back up. Okay? Now let's do the opposite side. And this is an active pose. You're squeezing your glutes. You're trying to force your knees to stay open. You don't want your knees to cave in. Keep them open. Keep the hands here. Drop that shoulder down. Yes. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. All right, let's close the legs. So normally, when in a yoga class, you would do your Shavasana pose, laying on the mat, close your eyes, palms face up. But for chair yoga, you just want to scoot down and relax your back on the back of the chair, your palms up, and you can just close your eyes and relax and breathe normally. In and out, and just relax all the muscles and joints. And you want to scan the body and just notice how the body feels now as it did to when you first started. So you just breathe here normally. And Shavasana can last anywhere from 2 minutes to 5 minutes, you know? You just want to find your relaxation state. Very good. All right. Okay, so let's just come up. And we're going to inhale and circle our arms up. Exhale, hands to heart center. And I just want to thank you for having me and joining me for this yoga session today. Namaste. All right, thank you.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
So, just curious, how many people actively practice yoga currently? Okay. I'm not one of them. I'm actually more, I'll just say, I don't know if frightened's the word.
Oh, no.
Hesitant, but like going to a studio and doing stuff that I'm not familiar with, what's the advice for like people that don't do it, but see people that benefit from it, like to get started?
Oh, you can just come in. Everybody's welcome. Any yoga class, you can practice on the chair if you feel you're not as flexible, but anybody can do yoga. Yoga's for kids, yoga's for seniors, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Take a friend.
No, of course. And, you know, friends want to take me. I'm like, yeah, no,
Yes,
I'm good.
oh yes, yes. Any instructor, they will work with you and make you feel comfortable.
Okay.
You know, it's not about who can stretch, who can do the highest stretch or do a split, you know? It's for everybody.
No, and I think I definitely, just speaking for myself, there's definitely that hesitation of like, you know, I can go do 300-pound leg presses all day long, but to sit and do and like, and feel out of my comfort zone, I think
Yeah.
is the best way to explain it.
Yes, the more you do it, the more you'll love it.
Sure, and so like this being chair yoga, I think there's part of it for anybody that's in an office, and like how do you actually apply this into like your work
Yes,
day?
if you have a break or whatever, well, hopefully you can do it at your office. I don't know. Can you? Yes. Yeah. So I think it's good. You can do it on your break. You can do it on your lunch hour.
Yeah.
You know, and just do some small stretches. I mean, you don't have to exaggerate it and get into Warrior 2 at work, but you know. Yes. But it's a lot, like you can do the neck exercises.
Sure.
You can do flexion and extension with the neck. Yeah.
100%. Now everybody's talking about this exact scenario. They're at work.
Yes.
You just asked your boss for the raise. They said no. You're all stressed. And you're gonna go and do your chair yoga and really,
Yeah.
like,
It's
when
some more subtle poses that you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to say, look at me, I'm in Warrior 2. So.
No, but I definitely, like with the neck and the shoulders, when you're, you know, we're
Yes.
all doing a lot of, you know, keyboarding and whatnot,
Yes.
whether that's at home or the office. So this
Right.
it seems like you can do it without saying, oh, I'm going out for an
Yes,
hour's worth
you
of yoga
can.
and get it done.
Yes, and the
work it
main
in.
thing is to find your breath, to practice your breathing,
Yep,
you know? Yes.
very, very
She
good.
was holding her breath.
Yeah. Oh, you know, like,
Yes.
yeah, because, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I was holding my breath because I was like, oh, the chair's gonna go,
Yes. Yeah.
or a wardrobe malfunction's gonna happen. So, yes, I was holding my breath.
Yes.
But
Okay.
thank you so much for being
You're
with us
wel-
today.
You're
And
welcome.
we do have
She has it. Here.
Claudette and her husband. We do have a surprise and delight for everybody here today, and that is a 2-week guest pass for everybody, and you can pick up the certificate at the front desk. So go and try it out, and I think everybody needs to leave feeling like a warrior goddess, and that's where I'm gonna leave it. You're good. So we do have our final mix and mingle session for another 15 minutes. If we could break and be back in our seats by 11:30, and hopefully by now you've got those 3 people on your sheet, so make sure you take the bottom piece of that and leave that at the front desk when you pick up your fabulous certificate for a 2-week free trial. So we'll see you back in a few minutes. Did everybody get their little piece of paper from their meet and greet sheet into the bucket? We'll have the drawing after this. I would like to now introduce our next panel for today. We're excited to have 2 dynamic leaders with us from Butler Till. Butler Till is a results-driven, women-owned, 100% employee-owned, and certified B Corporation marketing agency from right here in Rochester. Their structure and culture empowers them to create a positive impact for their clients, for their communities in which they live and work, and for themselves. Let's begin by having our panelists come to the stage. First, let's welcome Amanda DeVito. Amanda is the Chief Marketing Officer at Butler Till. She has a bachelor's degree in communications and journalism and graduated magna cum laude from St. John Fisher College. She recently also completed the Executive MBA from Rochester Institute of Technology. She was nominated by her EMBA peers. Yay! All right, let me do that again, okay? She also recently completed an executive MBA from Rochester Institute of Technology. Yay! My bad. You're fired. She was nominated by her EMBA peers for the Donna Sheed Leadership Award and is part of the Beta Gamma Sigma Honor Society. Currently, she is on an advisory board of Ownership America. Amanda also belongs to Chief, a private membership network focused on connecting and supporting women and executive leaders. Amanda is a sought-after expert, having spoken at numerous events. She loves her family, and her hobbies include snowboarding, golf, and paddleboarding. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next panelist is Cara O'Leary. Please welcome Cara. Cara is the Senior Director of Employee Experience and Talent Management at Butler Till. She oversees talent acquisition, manager development, diversity, equity.
I love this woman. I
I was
haven't seen her in a week.
We haven't seen each other in a while.
Separated like a COVID scenario here. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. I'm curious to know what that is. And employee culture and engagement. Cara holds a bachelor's degree in clinical psychology and legal studies from the University of Rochester and a master's degree in organizational psychology from Columbia University. She is certified by the Society of Human Resources Management as a professional, and that's SHRM-CP, and as a senior professional, SHRM-SCP.
They're like fancy HR things.
Yes, yes.
She's a big deal.
A CPFM, yes, we love
so
those.
it's fine.
Yes, love the extra letters. And is currently working toward becoming an executive and life coach. So welcome to you both. How did you feel about our negotiation panel in the fields of?
So I was on a call doing some negotiation.
Yes.
So I couldn't go to the panel, but I did in my MBA class go through an entire course on negotiation.
Yeah.
I was telling Jackie how wrong I was doing it for so long,
Yeah.
and had no real rigor and process behind it until understanding about it. So I'm assuming it was probably the same as what I went through in school, but it's an incredible, like, you forget how much you negotiate in your life for yourself. And I think women in particular are learning to, we've always had a voice. I can't, you really need to use your voice. I'm like, hold up, I've always had one.
Right.
I just maybe haven't had the space to actually use it. So negotiations, I think, is a really big factor in that.
Absolutely.
So that was a long walk around the barn to say I heard it was a great speaking panel.
No, it was. We could spend a whole day on it. We might have to work on that.
I did hear some of it, and I heard probably like the second half of it, but we were just talking about how important it is to ask questions about the why, like why do people want this thing? Why is it important to them? Because that's really, like the story at the end that, the poor boy just wanted to visit his family in China. It wasn't that he wanted extra vacation. It's like there's a reason and there's a solve here, and often like mutual win in these situations. And I think sometimes we forget about that. It's like, I want to win, you want to win. But it's really like, how can we get to something where we both win?
Yep.
Really. And you don't know until you ask and really drive what's underneath it. So, I thought it was great.
No, thank you. Yeah. So let's start with, tell us a little bit about Butler Till, and then your current roles and responsibilities, so everybody can understand that.
Take it.
Okay, you just point to me, and I'll. First of all, I'm dangerous with a microphone. Giving you a heads up. Periodically, a swear word may come out. I promise.
I'm
I'll really.
surprised I haven't got hot mic today yet.
Yeah, I know. I'm worried about that too. So I'm giving you a heads up on that one. Okay, so I actually want to tell you a story about Butler Till. I'll tell you a story, and then you'll get a sense of who Butler Till is, right? So, okay, we're a marketing agency. We have women-owned, employee-owned, B Corp, all great. This past week, but to get a real understanding of kind of who we are, our ethos, this is the story I want to tell you. So this past week, we had a board meeting, and we were all together. Don't feel too bad. It was in Naples, Florida. You're anyway, and we were all together, and then we wound up doing a workshop afterwards, and something was brought up, and it wound up bringing up a gentleman that had worked with us about a year ago. And on February 11th, we lost this gentleman to suicide, and he worked for me. And I don't know if any of you have experienced grief, but grief just smacks you on the side of the face. You're just like, oh, whoa, I don't even know where that came from. And so I wind up getting very verklempt, and I wound up, getting upset and crying. And then I looked to my CEO, and she's crying. And I looked to my VP of an engagement, and he's tearing up. And I'm looking to my chief strategy officer, and he's tearing up. I look to my left, and I got my friend Karen, who's VP of operations, and she's crying and asking to get up and hug me. So now the whole room is just emotional in all the best ways. And I thought to myself, whenever in my 25-year career did I feel so incredibly safe and vulnerable to be able to emotionally connect and cry in front of my coworkers? And so that is Butler Till in a nutshell. And I think why is not every organization like this, right? What do we need to do to teach each other, teach leadership, because it's on us, to be able to have an environment that you just feel that psychologically safe, because I think we've realized clearly from COVID that you bring your whole self to work. It's very integrated. So it's not like I walk through the doors and go, today I'm not going to grieve. So that I just wanted to share that story with you all, because I think that in a nutshell kind of describes who we are, aside from then what we do. And then my role, in particular, I'm Chief Marketing Officer, and that's just a fancy title to say I make sure that I keep the lights on by bringing in new clients, and we market ourselves, and that we market ourselves in a way that is a little bit even outside of Rochester, that we're nationally renowned, and I want to make sure we do that in our reputation. But what I love primarily about my role is it's attached to growth. And it's growing the business, but in the byproduct of growing the business, I'm growing people. They get to have flexibility of, I don't really like working on that account. Can I shift? Yes, you can. I want to change something up. Can I do that? Yes, you can. So what I love about growth is it gives our people just tremendous opportunity to move around, get promoted, build more wealth for our women and our employees, all of them. And I think that is what I'm most excited about. So that's my role. Good, I'm glad you do. I love it too. My parents have no idea what I do. I'm wondering if I could take that bio and send it to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know how that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They think I put ads on the television. They said, your Super Bowl ads are awesome. I'm like, I know.
She
Side
should, right?
hustle.
I know. She really should.
It's the next side hustle.
That's my side hustle.
Ellen already took my job, so I decided to be a CMO instead.
It's working. Amanda?
So my role, really does piggyback off Amanda's role. Maybe not as glamorous, I'd say, externally facing, but, the opportunities that Amanda is talking about that she brings into the organization, I then take that further down the chain, because I work with all aspects, basically, of the employee experience. So we're talking about how we recruit, how we onboard, how we promote people, just general ascendancy in the organization. We look at comp. We're looking at DEIB, which, we'll definitely get into that in a little bit. And we're looking at, even exits. How do we exit people and keep relationships? And it's been great in that we've had about literally 7 boomerangs this year, because we try to keep strong relationships with the people that we have, even if they leave us for a period of time. You know, and we're always looking at metrics and how are we doing and holding ourselves accountable. So when Amanda brings in that new business, I then step in and I can say, okay, let's look at our talent. Who's ready for a new opportunity? So, you know, even as recently as a few weeks ago, you know, all the VPs in our company will get a list and they will say, is this person ready for a promotion? Is this person, would they benefit from a rotation? How are they performing? Do they need any extra support? So we try to look at these things very regularly and then use them to help make decisions and guide prioritization. And then, of course, we have a learning team that helps to create learning that allows for people to have, you know, different opportunities. So, you know, my role is really kind of all-encompassing, and I'm newer to Butler Till. I only joined at the end of May. It feels like I've been there forever. It's such a warm and welcoming environment, and the employee ownership aspect really makes a big difference in the sense that how decisions are made is really driven by what is best for all the employees. And that's a unique, you know, thing in marketing. I've worked at a number of different media agencies, both in New York City and here. And it's usually kind of what's best for the shareholders, you know, but we're all shareholders. So it's like it's a pivot on that model. And we really think about that, like what does the greatest good for the most amount of people? So that's a really interesting shift. Yep. And we do a lot around engagement and looking at, we do an employee engagement survey that we do every October, and then we're about to do another little pulse survey to see how we're doing. But it is like critically important for us that when we do that survey, we get the results out quickly, we present them back to the agency to say, we've heard you, we know we're great in these areas, but we're not great in those areas. And from other agencies that I've worked at, I mean, we would maybe get 60%, and that was like on a good day. We had 99% participation in this. Wow. And the reason, I think, is because we genuinely try to take action on it. And we have to kind of hold ourselves accountable to it. So every time we do something, we try to say, we heard you. I don't know if you recall in the survey, you guys said that you were interested in understanding a little more about our compensation philosophy. So we're going to hold a training about that so that you can understand how comp decisions aren't random, where do they come from. Someone talked about the framework and the pay bands on the earlier panel. So like trying to explain, so nothing is kind of black box over here.
Right.
So I'd say that is kind of my role and how it like ties to the
How big is the company? How many employees?
So, go ahead. No, so we're at about 230 right now and growing. So as Amanda brings in new business, we continue to grow and have more opportunities. Even since I've been there, we have hired about 100 people.
Wow.
So it's crazy.
In less than a year.
A lot of growth, yeah.
And what are some top companies that you've been targeting for marketing to bring in as clients, or the big ones that you brought in, and who's on your wish list?
Oh,
if you can share.
Who's on my wish list? That's a really good one. You know, so we work with a lot of healthcare, life sciences, health insurance, pharma. We work with insurance, financial. I mean, we run the gamut across a multitude of verticals. But if I had to pick my wish list, honestly, it is anyone that is just the purpose-driven factor to us is really important. I think, you know, any brand that has that kind of ethos that matches ours from a purpose is really, really important to us. And right now, may we be able to continue to be picky. You know, whether or not it doesn't kind of align with our value system and what that looks like. We have been really fortunate to have a criteria that we hold really deep to ourselves, because what we realize is we have to take care of the product. So the product, first and foremost, are our people. So actually the client, the best client I've ever brought in are people. And to me, as long as you take care of them, everything else comes. It's just everything else comes. Yeah. And so, as long as the people are happy and they get excited about working on the business, and I ask them, like, what do you want to work on? What are you excited most about working on? And, it's still business, so you still have to navigate all the other things like profitability, but we do our best to try to be as picky as possible for our people and ask them what they think. And what Kara was saying, the amount of feedback, we are a feedback machine. We, at almost every single turn, are getting demonstrable feedback through anonymous channels, directly, through engagement survey, and then we triangulate and correlate all of that to make sure, are we even asking the right questions? Does our engagement survey have bias? Let's look at it through that lens. I mean, since Kara got here, she's changed the survey because some of it's like leading the witness. Because we didn't know. We're like making stuff up as we go along half the time until you hire talent that says, yeah, you did everything wrong.
Yeah.
So fix that.
Right. And that's, I think that's, for so many people, doing it wrong, and it's not intentional, but when you realize it and you fix it, it's actually pretty powerful to get up and say, we might not have been doing it right, but we took steps to fix it, and this is how we've done it, and now we're better than ever. So it kind of leads me into what is the belonging aspect of that, because I didn't mention, I'm actually a trustee for the university for a couple of years now, and the trustees here have taken diversity, equity, inclusion. Belonging isn't in the sentence yet, I guess, but a culture is one, and I remember we went through a cultural training, and somebody asked me what my culture was. I'm like, well, I'm scared. I'm quick to tell you what I don't know. And I think that's a powerful thing too. And then somebody asked me what my culture was, and I was like, I don't know, I'm Scandinavian. I'm like swim in that cold ocean and eat fish. I don't know. I really don't know. And then being in the restaurant business, I've learned so much about cultures, and the restaurant business is one of the most diverse industries, which I didn't realize then. But so how is culture and culture building, because I think there's two different meanings to culture. One, it's the philosophical aspect of what your company believes in, but then there's everybody's culture that goes with that. And I'm really mostly intrigued in the belonging aspect of what you're working on.
Well, it's a very timely question because we actually just did a presentation in front of the whole company talking about this.
Okay.
And what we were doing this year as it relates to our DEIB plan. And Amanda and I partnered on developing it with a small working group, and there's a number of things that we're looking at this year. So one of the big differences in what we're doing this year is we're kind of segmenting to some degree the DE and the IB sides of the equation. So we can talk about that in a second. But in terms of DE, that is looking at kind of our policies, our practices, how are we hiring, numbers, metrics, like really looking at kind of how we operate. And then we have the IB, so the inclusion and the belonging. And I know, Amanda, I thought it was a really good analogy. I don't want to steal your thunder, but it was kind of like getting the invite to the party and then feeling like you should be at that party. Like these are your people. And that's the difference between the inclusion and the belonging. So inclusion being you're invited, and the belonging is you feel like you really should be there and you're in the right place.
And you have a say in the playlist.
Yep.
Right? Because you can be like, oh, here, you're at the table, but you don't have a say in, you're in the room, but you don't have a say in the playlist. You don't get a say on whether or not you want balloons or what kind of alcohol you want. Like this, all that actually matters. And I think that deep sense of belonging is very different than just the inclusion piece. So we added the B for that reason.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry, how many people have heard of the B? You have? Okay, good. Good. I'm learning every day, so I love it.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was new to me too. Just to be completely truthful, my company obviously looked at DEI, but B was new, and I had to kind of look at it. I'm like, what is B? What does that mean? And then Amanda and I started talking about it, and I was like, wow, yeah, that's really important. It's a game changer.
It's like a light bulb.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And
Love it.
that aspect of it is really more where the culture part comes into play. Like, do we have a culture that supports people, very diverse people?
Yeah.
Do we have learning that educates people on different cultures, different aspects, different, topics? Are we kind of broad enough in how we think about diversity, equity, inclusion? Like, do we have a group that we put together that is representative of the company, or groups outside that we partner with to bring in knowledge? And Amanda and I will be the first people to say, we certainly don't know everything, and we want to leverage our resources where we can. And we've found a number of people who do work outside of Butler-Till that we've talked about bringing in, because we need counsel. I certainly, don't know, and I want to have a more representative group. So that is something that's been really important to us as
Pro
well.
athletes have coaches. I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I will say, I do think we're really good about knowing what we don't know. And I think that's what's propelled us is kind of getting around a room and going, hi. First of all, let's get around a room and realize we're talking about diversity and we're a bunch of white people. So how sophisticated can we be in understanding? So one of the things that we really did early on is kind of continue to scorecard ourselves, and it's hard to grade your own homework. So we decided we've got to get more people to kind of outside look at us and audit it and say, you got to do better. We're probably the toughest graders.
Oh, yeah.
We won an award recently for the DNC as being one of the best around DEIB. And it was, for me, internally, I had this it's just not good enough. We're just not there yet. And I think if I could move it faster, I would. And so for us, we're proud of it, but also simultaneously yeah, we need to do way better. And I think every company needs to do way better.
Solid, and you see that you can do better.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I mean, listen, solid. I don't know. I just think right now this is a space where I don't think it's good enough. I think we have a foundation and an understanding, but if you look at our agency, we are diverse in one aspect, which is gender. And I'm not dismissing that by any means, but that's not holistic diversity. And so that is a place that we have to get to. And every piece of research out there shows you that you're going to be irrelevant if you don't think this way, understand it. It's what's right. It's the right thing to do. And it actually has been proven that it's excellent for shareholders, for business, for everything. Those two things are deeply connected. So, yeah, so I would say, I grade us a 2.
Just participating in it, I think because we're grading ourselves hard, we're also the ones looking at the questionnaires. And we're like, oh, yeah, we don't really do that and should. Yeah, I guess we do that, but could I rate us a 5? Nah, we're like a 2. So almost through the act of participating in a number of these awards and different programs and submitting for it, we have learned quite a bit. And one of them, I think it's the DNC template, we were taking it and we were like, we're gonna save this and use this as a roadmap. Because yes, do we have the foundation? Sure. And do we absolutely have the drive? Yes. But can we say with confidence we're doing all this? And we're like, yes. No, we can't, because we know we need to continue to improve. And following that roadmap and looking at it, because they're collating best practices from around Rochester and what's happening, and around the world technically. So we get to kind of look at ourselves against those benchmarks. And so I think that's why we're a little bit harder.
You're not building questions that you're going to get 5s on to make you artificially look
right.
like you're all together.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and people do that. As it pertains to working for a women-owned business versus a male-owned business, have you worked for different other companies that you work for were male-owned, and what was the most significant differential?
Yes, well, I have worked.
This is where the swearing comes in.
I have worked for a number of different agencies in New York City, and they had parent companies, and they were all older white men. It was a very different model than Butler-Till. Butler-Till is independent, so we have, just by the very nature of not having this enormous parent company kind of telling us what to do, we get to look at our policies and make decisions that are best for our people. And that's one of the main things I was attracted by, because it's you can have all the ideas in the world, but if you can't execute or you can't get heard, or there's just this huge conglomerate that you can't push around, like you become really stifled. So, and I don't want to say that that was just being male, but there were a number of things that were really impacting policies as they related to women, one of them being parental policies and how we think about that and how we get them out and how we talk about it. And I felt like they were just so behind the times for a very long time. And I was part of a committee that we're trying to show them this isn't current, this is not modern. Like the workplace is moving in a different direction. Fortunately, we ended up making some progress on it, so that was great. But it's like, we got to Butler Till, and that's already part of the conversation. I think that's one of the things about being women-owned, thinking about, families, parents, and that's just not only one aspect. I mean, I think there's a number of things also around health and wellness, and a few other things that I don't want to say prioritize women's health or maybe over others, but make it equal at the table. Like, it's not diminished. Yeah. And so to me, that makes a really big difference. And it's also thinking about women leadership and how, who's running the organization and what is that voice? What does that mean at the table? And being really conscious of having that voice at the table. And it's not to say that we don't have men in leadership positions. We absolutely do.
We allow them.
Yeah,
we allow them every so often.
They're pretty good. They're good.
I don't know if you heard her. She said we allow it every so often.
But it is very important to us at being women-owned that we keep a certain percentage of women in leadership positions and helping to have that voice. So for me, that has been a very big difference from where I've worked in the past. So.
I could tell you some stories, but I won't right now. Let's see. There's so many things swirling through my head. One, I love great old white men, as long as those great old white men know to either get out of the way or help us through the process. And I think that, right? Preach. I think, and the ones in my life have recognized that. There have been some that haven't. It's unbelievable how much became normalized in my life that I didn't know was how I was socialized in a way. And listen, even in a woman-owned company, it's insane to think that we don't have internalized bias. It's insane to think that we don't have sexism. It's insane to think that we don't have, right? We're still humans. Our story, how we've been socialized, what that all looks like, unpacking all that is really important. Challenging leadership. I mean, I remember I had a conversation with my CEO, and she's like, I love so-and-so. I said, okay. I said, I think this one over here, I think she would be fantastic. I don't know, I'm not sure if she's the right fit. And I said, well, tell me why you like this individual. And she described her to a T, just like, she's this. I go, you just described yourself. And she goes, oh. I go, so I'm just wondering, this person is not really like you. Let's just be really careful of, are we migrating towards this? Are you migrating towards this because it feels comfortable, familiar, and you know this? Versus someone over here, I mean, listen, as an extrovert, the first time I had a discussion with my wife, I remember yelling and arguing, and she's just standing there staring at me. So in my head, I'm like, I am nailing this. I can't believe how smart I am and how she's sitting there just internalizing all the wisdom in this disagreement. And I think it was like a good rant for like 10 minutes, and I get done, and she goes, so I lost what you said about a minute and a half in. I don't process information as fast as you're doling it out. So we're going to revisit this discussion after you read the book Quiet. And I was like, not only did I not win, not only did I think winning was the thing, but I also have a homework assignment. We're still together. That gives you any idea of what's going on. So I did read the book Quiet, and what I loved about it was it made me realize, like, oh my gosh, like, by the way, if any of you are introverts, please read the book because you will feel so incredibly powerful after you read it. And also as extroverts, you will realize that with the power of giving space to introverts will absolutely move both of you forward. So it's a really great book. And I did read it and did have a follow-up with my wife. I did not win that discussion, but I did learn more about myself, and that's always a good thing. So diversity, right? And I think about like all the social identities, you know. I think about, I wake up and I'm a mom of a puppy. So that's my first social identity. Then I'm a wife. Then I'm a businesswoman. You know, then in the meeting I'm an owner. But then I'm like, nope, I want to kind of pull out the woman part of my social identity in this meeting. And you realize like how many social identities we have throughout the day, and they're way more interconnected, I think, than we realize. I think right now the world's just trying to kind of polarize and separate so much, but I think the more you hear people's stories and get to truly come from a place of understanding, all good things happen from there. You know, really, and then earning the right to hear someone's story. You know, you can't just kind of barge in and be like, tell me your story, without the trust being built. So one of the things that's incredibly important is you do not know what trauma people have gone through. You don't know what their story is. So building that trust to earn that right to hear it is a gift. And I'm grateful for that. That kind of a cultural environment is something that I think is really important. You know, we have perks. We've plenty of perks. The dogs can come, lots of freedom, stand-up desks. We have a lot of perks. But I've never kept anyone. I don't think we've ever kept anyone because, oh my gosh, I'm really glad you passed the beer card on St. Patrick's Day. That's why I'm staying. No, you know, we lose people because we haven't grown their spirit through their work, or they did not feel that deep sense of inclusion and belonging. That's really why you lose people.
Turnover? What's the turnover rate?
So this is my technical, in the industry, like it's usually around 30, 35%. We're really lucky because we're at about 18%. Our goal is to stay under 20%. Our goal is to be even less than that. But, you know, we've been really proud kind of over the last couple years of volatility that we've been able to keep it low. I mentioned before, like we do a lot of metrics and KPIs, and we try to really hold ourselves accountable. So we do a lot of reporting on that, and we look at exit interviews, and we take that data, and we're like, okay, what's happening? Is there something going on that team, or is there something around how we're onboarding people or upgrowing them? And we try to figure it out, you know, and sometimes it's just people doing different things, and that's okay. And that's where the boomerang part comes in again, where we say, look, we loved you, the door's always open, please think of us, you know, if either A, this isn't the right fit, or B, further down the line. So like we're really kind of open about that stuff.
We weren't. So Kara gets a lot of credit for this. We weren't. We were like a little bit of like the Godfather, like kiss the ring, you're dead to us, goodbye.
I guess it was me.
And Kara comes in and she's like, well, but they're good people. And we're like, but they left us.
Yeah.
And she's like, because they're human and maybe they just wanted to explore other things. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you know, she really pressed upon us. Are you kind of staying to this construct, and things are changing and evolving, and she's elevated us tremendously where, you know, we actually now are like, okay, you can come back because we loved you. Like, we really did love you. And I got to tell you, there's people that left for a week.
Yes.
And literally were like, oh my God, I really made a mistake. Of course, like there's so much going on with like, boom, 20 grand. You know, you can stay home, but yet you work out of California, and then like it's confusing, and we forget, and this is something as leaders, we're a little bit more vintage than some of our employee owners. So we have to be cognizant of like where we're at in life, and we're making decisions for a lot of people that are at a different stage in their life. Mm-hmm. So to be really cognizant of the fact like, oh, so you never like took a leap and realized you screwed up? Like that is something we have to be really cognizant of, I think, as leaders, is to say, like, who is not in the room that we have a lot of choices that we're making on their behalf. And I think, too, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, show of hands, how many of you Like a lot of the decisions that have been made about you are made about you when you're not in the room. How many of you were asked, would you like a promotion? We're thinking about promoting you. What do you think? Should we promote you? I mean, how many times were you actually asked that? It's like, by the way, we're promoting you, or, this is the path that we think you can take to promotion. So I think that has been something that you have brought substantially to us and recognized, no, you should let people back in.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's a win-win, though, really, at the end of the day, because first of all, we get to understand a little bit about what's driving people when they're leaving, maintain the good relationship, and when they come back, I think it also sends a broader message to the rest of the agency that says, look, guys, I did get, an offer for more money, but it just wasn't the same. I didn't feel welcomed. The team was like discombobulated, whatever it is. And they're like, no, like, it's good here. I'm like, they say it.
Are
I
other
don't have to say
companies
it.
out there trying to cherry pick your people as your reputation of culture and inclusion and belonging builds? Like, are people coming after your people?
It's interesting. So I'll never forget this. First of all, I just want to say that I love Sue Butler more than anything. And I remember early on when we were, this is 12 years ago, and Sue and Tracy are no longer part of the day-to-day. But I remember Sue, we were going to put like faces on the interwebs on our website. And Sue's like, oh my gosh, don't put their faces on there and their names. People are going to want to take them. And I'm like, I think people are going to want to take anybody that's a talent. Doesn't really matter like what the access is. So for us, every day, yes, do I think people are absolutely, we have talent. And so we should every day assume that our talent is being asked to jump, move, more money, more whatever. And I do believe that our job is to be very much aware of that and figure out, how do we think about how do we earn their commute? All of a sudden, now we got to hey, we want you to come in, we're hybrid. How do we earn their commute? Because that's a lot of schlepping that they didn't have to do. Now all of a sudden, you're going to switch from your PJs to pants again. That's a friction, and we have to think that way. Like, oh my God. I mean, I said that. I remember I told my CEO, she's like, okay, are you excited about coming in? And that's how she would ask. She's like, are you excited about coming back? I'm like, talk about leading the witness. Everybody was like, yeah. And then I'd be like, are you really excited? They're like, no, I don't want to come back. That's crazy,
Can I wear
right?
my rabbit slippers?
Right, I like my slippers. Yes.
I have so many other questions. I got cherry picking. Millennials. They're the next workforce generation, but I like that you use the word vintage. Yes. And there's the generational. I don't even know the right word. You're going to come up with one for me, both of you. But it is a challenge. Like for me to understand millennials to the way that I should, I don't. But they're the workforce. So. What have you seen and managing some of the generations and meeting the needs of the vintage and the fresh brewed?
It's definitely, it can be a challenge. There's different needs, I'd say, across the organization, not just, around actually how work gets accomplished, but what work means and what you look for out of a job. And it's very interesting because we've been trying to think about it from that lens of not necessarily millennials versus Gen X or anything like that, but more from the lens of almost different phases of life. What do you need kind of at different phases of life? And one area where I would say that we've struggled in maybe explaining the value to the younger generation has been around ESOP. And what does it mean to be part of an employee-owned company and that you get you are a stockholder and there is a value associated with that, and it goes into account, and no, you can't touch it now, but you can, when you leave here, you will have amassed wealth just by being here and helping us grow and succeed. Now, when you're talking to kind of a newer generation, sometimes that's So, we're trying to, so one of the things that we did was we kind of looked at it a little bit more generationally of what matters to you at that point? Okay, well, we've got work flexibility, we do raises. Well, we do raises. Every year we do a merit cycle, so it's pay for performance, so based on how you're performing. we have merit increases associated with performance, but we also do a company bonus based on how the company is performing. So that's like tangible money in your hand when you're thinking about, okay, what am I going to get? And then we have health benefits. And our health benefits, we have a very largely subsidized benefit. There's like 3 different options, but one of them for people, brand new coming in, may have potentially less medical expenses, not necessarily, but that could be an option where you're basically getting almost free health care. So like trying to think about certain things that we offer and like what benefits they have in terms of time horizon, short term and long term. So depending on how we recruit and who we're talking to and what point they're at in their career, we may highlight certain things more than others. They of course always get the full package, but like it's talking about what's important to that person at that point in time, kind of back to the negotiation. What's important to you at this point in your life? And for a lot of people, growth in my career. And so we have we do goals in PDP, which is like your personal development plan. So we're really emphasizing like, how are you continually learning and growing, and what is your path, and how do you get there? For many people, they want a lot of clarity around that. So that's kind of the way we're thinking about it, rather than necessarily generationally, like per se, but kind of like what's important to someone at that period of time that will get them to stay and stay part of us and see it through. And then I know for myself, I have a young child, and I'm thinking about different kinds of things as it relates to my healthcare, my 401k, my longevity. So that's like a different story for me. Yeah. So, I'd say that's how we are compartmentalizing it, if you will.
No, I like that, because you can either embrace and grow and understand all the generations. I mean, we have to.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a mindset about it. So I really like that. Yeah. On the subject
can I just add one point? I think again, you're going to hear me say bias a lot. I think we've got to be very careful of assuming that millennials all behave and act like this, that Gen Z all behave and act like this. I mean, I don't know, what am I, Gen X? What am I? Gen X, I don't know, something. And I think, and I remember early on, we used to say, well, millennials, they want flexibility. And I'm like, I want flexibility. Millennials, like they want career path. I'm like, I could have used a career path. That would have been nice. So you realize like, oh my God, we can learn. We all should just be open and learning from one another across generations, across ethnicity, across gender, across just be careful of the bias. And I think we tend to hold to these constructs that we have a really hard time letting go of. Right now where we are in the workforce, we have a really hard time letting go of the fact that work looks specifically like this. And it's like, well, not so much. So that's something that is, it's hard. It's hard to just check yourself all the time for the bias.
Another aspect where social media and the memes don't help that case either. So, on the subject of ESOP, can you tell us exactly what it is?
Yes.
And then why that's so important to your company?
So it's a lousy marketing name, ESOP. It's Employee Stock Ownership Plan. And essentially what it means is that you will have an actual stake in the company. You are a shareholder. And after 1,000 hours, you're officially starting to become vested in the company to become an owner. And I love what Kara said, because what's really interesting, when we first became employee owned, we're like, we're employee owned, and we'd go to someone like, we're employee owned. And clients were like, okay, cool, whatever. And then our employees were like, cool, what does that mean? And then we would explain it, and they're like, retirement. Okay, so I don't know what I'm doing Saturday. So cool, but that seems really far away. So we realized that the paradigm shifted, and it was more about empowerment. It was more about feeling that they were heard. I mean, it was definitely the cultural side of being an ESOP. It does baffle me that there's not more out there that aren't, and it's something why I'm on for the board for Ownership America, because I love the thought of putting more wealth in employees' pockets, and that they then in turn continue to give to the community, continue to build other people up. And that, that idea, and maybe it's an ideology to many of you, but for me, it really is a very core purpose of mine, being in a woman-owned company in particular as well. So yeah, ESOP, it's a terrible, terrible name.
Yeah.
And I did not market it.
What would you have called it?
Not that.
We have to do a lot of education on it, even now, because I know, because I recently joined the company, about 6+ months ago, and I was like, okay, can you explain this ESOP thing to me again? Yeah. Like, what does it mean? Like, do I vote on everything? Like, how does this work? Like, what is the money? Like, do I see the money? Like, you have to really explain it, and fortunately, I think we've done, like, a much better job, I'd say, in the last year or so, with a lot of information sessions about what is it, what does it mean, how is it determined, like how is our value as a company, we're not traded on the stock exchange, like what does that mean? And just generally for people who don't know, because I didn't know, it's basically your company gets kind of valued every year through like a pretty intense process that our finance team and the CEO and others go through to kind of establish your value as a company, which kind of translates into a share price. And based on your salary, your tenure, and a number of factors, you then get a percentage of that. So it really does grow over time, and the value, I was sad because I wasn't a part of it yet because I was still so new, but I will be this year. The value is unbelievable because we just keep growing and growing and growing, and we make financial decisions for the company with that in mind. Like, is this going to be good for our shareholders, meaning the company? Will we be able to pay and make sure that even if someone leaves, like they still get a portion and that they're vested? So like, we're always thinking about that in mind and what will help the company to achieve the most value.
Great.
Yeah.
This next question, perhaps the last question, is to pick your brain and or for the benefit of the audience, whether you're an employer or an employee. When you do the surveys, what's like the top 1 and 2 things that come back that you have to work on?
Oh, I can take this one. So I would say the number one thing was comp. Understanding how compensation is decided. And as somebody new coming in, kind of looking at all of it, I completely understand where that question was coming from. We had, a framework and a model, but, over time we had added a number of roles, so things got a little skewed over time. We had to start thinking about new geographies. And how do we treat that? How do we treat it if we hire someone in New York City versus Rochester? How do we look at these different things? And so the model had started to get very complicated. So I'm really fortunate that on my team, there is someone whose role is largely, not exclusively, but largely dedicated to comp and compliance. And so she attended a ton of workshops. We really looked at like, what are best practices in this area? And we didn't expect to do this, but we ended up redoing the entire framework. And it took some time, it took a while, but we're like, we have to build in, as employee owners, we have to build in that transparency about not just like our company financials, but like your financials. Like, how do we arrive at this? And also, with a number of states, including New York State, moving into more pay transparency as it relates to posting salaries for jobs and things like that. Like, time is ripe right now to do that. So we are literally in about a week and a half going to be offering comp training for the managers and directors in the company to understand what is our framework, what is our comp philosophy, how are things decided, how do we think about different geos, when someone either moves or someone is hired, and just general policies around being rehired, which we talked about, or relocation. So that was number one. By far, lots of need in that area. I think there was also need in, I'd say, career pathing. which is another area that kind of coming out of some of the work we've done with comp, we're looking a lot at job descriptions and career pathing, and they really go hand in hand because understanding, let's say, the compensable factors of a job, like why do you pay this much for this but that much for that, has forced us to take another look at our job descriptions, some of which are brand new jobs that we just had, and some of which are jobs we've had for a while and maybe haven't revisited in a long time. So we're starting to think about that as like a fundamental, like underlying piece of the structure to look at like what are people doing and then what are the skill sets needed to get from this level to this level to this level, like what are those gaps? And by the way, this is not easy. I mean, like it's a lot of work to figure it out, like it's a lot of conversation. So where we're starting is just with the job descriptions, like getting them up to date, and then we run the gap analysis, and then we can create a framework that we roll out. So, you know, I would, to anyone that would ask, I'd say, look guys, absolutely a need, not something I could give you like right this minute. Many of the teams have created certain matrices around like what skills you need. I don't think we've tackled it like uniformly, so that would be the next step, and it's something that our people are asking for. So, and fair enough. So that's the two that I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
What advice for anybody in the room that wants to own their own path would you share?
Well, it's interesting because this is going to be kind of, I think, interesting. So career path. There is pros and cons, I think, to pathing, because sometimes on your career path you can kind of get this linear approach to I do this. But I think about my career and what I was so grateful for was there's times I wish I had a path, but on the times that it wasn't like all laid out in front of me, it gave me the opportunity to be fearless of like, can I try that? Do you need help over here? And so I think we just got to be really cognizant when career path is absolutely the right thing to do. It's the right move, but be careful of getting too stuck on the path because your journey is going to go all over the place. So to be able to kind of pick your head up out of the sand and look around and go, maybe I want to be on that path or maybe I want to be on that path. I think that is something that is hard. And I think, you know, you go to school and it's the rigor of I go to this class and I get this grade. And so there's all this rigor in your life. And then you go to college and freshman year is a total shit show, probably because you had all this rigor. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm an adult and I'm adulting and I'm all about my, like, ugh. And then you hopefully get back on track and and then you include rigor back into your life. And then you get plopped into the workforce and we're all like, hey, dream. Critically think. And it's like, where have we really trained? You know, many people early in their career. So what I think is crazy too is like, let's get the college even out of, college. Let's get some of the college out of, you know, our job descriptions. Like, is there bias in that? Is there bias in the fact that we're just using two pronouns in our job description? So, you know, diversity, just to take a quick circle back to that, it goes over every single thing we do. It's not like DEIB is on the side of your desk and okay, here, let's just like, it's a separate strategy. It's woven into literally every single thing you do, including everything she just said, right? Is it in the engagement survey? What does it look like in our job descriptions? What does it look like from a career pathing? What does ascendancy look like? Are we biased towards making sure this group is getting pulled up and this group isn't? How are we, if we're losing people, what people are we losing and why? You know, really putting a mirror up to your face is something that's really important. So I don't know if that was like a crap load of advice or just rambling, but either way, yeah, career pathing, be careful being too stuck on that path.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, it's funny because I was thinking about this and, you know, if a lot of times, like if you Google it or your number of career books, it's like, make a plan, stick to your plan. And I'm like, okay, I didn't really do that. It's like I started, like if I think about myself, I kind of started out on one path. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. So I worked as a paralegal. This is going way back now. But I worked as a paralegal, and then I kind of ended up working in nonprofit for a little while, and I started managing people, and I was like, oh, I really like this. But I don't feel like I know enough how to do it. So I did like a management certificate. Then I was like, oh, maybe consulting. I think that's it. So then I went into consulting, and it kind of was a long walk till I ended up at a big media agency. And I was doing organizational effectiveness because that tied to my master's degree, and that's what I was going to do. And I realized I'm not that excited about that. Not because I don't like the idea of organization and planning, but I felt like I was giving them a plan and walking away. And then I never got to see like kind of the fruits of the labor. Like, did it work? Like, were people happier? Like, what happened? I felt like it was like, no, you're done with that now, and we're gonna move to the, and I was like, ugh. So it ended up just kind of by happenstance. My boss left, this thing, that thing. They were starting a new agency, and they said, look, we need some help starting this agency. So again, yes, I'll do it. I thought I was coming in as the consultant. But then I see on this piece of paper that they put me as like head of HR. I'm like, HR? Like, I don't know anything about HR. And like, it was this whole thing. And I remember I had a very long talk with the COO, and I said, look, I care so much about like people and organizations and structure, and I do have experience with it, but I don't come from a technical HR background. I don't. And she said, first of all, you can learn it, and we believe in you. And I was like, oh, okay. So, look, the SHRM stuff, like that came from somewhere because I was like, wow, I need to get grounded. I need to figure this out. But it was worth it to me. It was something I wanted to do. But can I say that this was linear? Absolutely not. So like my advice is really more just like kind of follow like that passion. Like I knew I wanted to do something with people. I knew I wanted to be a part of like problem solving. I knew I liked kind of the legal aspect, which honestly plays a role in my current job. And I wanted to be part of like transformation and like helping people achieve their potential and all of this stuff. And it's hard sometimes to package that. You can also find that in a number of different roles. But I think it's like as you figure out yourself and like what drives you and what motivates you and saying yes to things that are even scary. And I think someone said that before, like, have faith in yourself. And like, it was hard. I had to work a lot, and I was very nervous, and I'd stayed up late at night, and I did all that stuff because I wanted to prove myself. But then you get to a point where you're like, okay, I know this. I can make decisions. I get it. Like, I can critically think. So having faith in yourself that it won't always be linear, but that, you're kind of tapping into your value system, what you care about, what makes you happy, and that you can find that in a number of different ways. And sometimes it pops up where you'd least expect it. So that's what I would say.
I love that. And I'll say I've had a great career, and the number one philosophy that I could attest it to is a quote where I say, just be open to the possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's taken me to some of the craziest places. Yep. Stories for days. Not today, but stories for days. So anyway, one or two questions. I think there's just great energy, great stuff.
Yeah. So the bee came about probably 6 or 7 months ago. Maybe, yeah, because I'm trying to think of when you got there.
Like when I had arrived, so I came at the end of May, the concept had been starting to be introduced.
Yeah.
So you guys had started to approach it, but we had not really done full-blown implementation where we had really decided strategically how we were weaving it in. But the concept was there, and we talked about it to the agency.
Yeah, and I think, so back to the engagement piece, what I realize is language is so incredibly powerful to change the narrative. So the second we started to incorporate that B, you could feel the shift in the energy of the agency. Like, oh, okay, so I don't really think I have a say in the playlist. Okay, well, that's not okay. So what wound up happening is it gave our people the opportunity to feel comfortable to raise their hand and go, I feel like I'm included here, but I don't feel like I'm belonging in this moment, and it looks like this, or it doesn't look like that. And that is something that I've seen and feel shifting, and that's the kind of conversations that are coming out in the engagement survey, good and bad, right? Where, hey, you say this, but I don't really know if I feel like that. Or, hey, you know, DEIB, where are the metrics? Can you know, and they really held us accountable to, this all sounds great, but where are the metrics behind it? And we are such a transparent company that we all the time, in the best way, get called in from our people to say, be more transparent. And I would say the transparency piece helped substantially around the engagement piece and the B portion of it.
And we'll see how it plays out, because we're going to be doing the Pulse survey now. And just a few weeks ago was when we really kind of laid out the DEIB plan and separated the DE and the IB. So it will be interesting to see. And it was one of the first times that we did share metrics. And some of them were like, this is low, and like, we're just being frank with you guys, you know, but like, it means that we can do better, and we acknowledge that. So are you also quantifying performance? Yeah.
We have a whole balanced scorecard to make sure at every part, you know, process, people, customer, like how are we, supply chain. I mean, like I said, our biggest, I tend to be the loudest one when it comes to DEIB, because it's just something that's near and dear to me. And now, you know, our CEO is doing the same, and I'm so proud of her for it. But I got to say, it's the piece that it's just woven in everything. I think that's where companies are still struggling, where it's this, okay, we check some boxes over here, but it is, when you look at your organization through that lens, it's amazing how so much of it starts shifting for your company.
100%. One more. Oh.
Thank you. How did that change the strategy and how you talked about marketing your business?
Yeah, so Digital Hive was an acquisition, and it's so, I don't know if we've really explained do you all know what Digital Hive is, as I'm sitting here talking about? Okay, so Butler Till, this is our kind of client base, and then we realized, you know what, there's a lot of small to medium-sized enterprises that really need agency help. And we were always attracted to this agency called Digital Hive. I knew the founder, Kimberly knew the founder, and we wound up getting to talking to him, and he realized, you know what, I think I want to kind of do something else. And in that time, it was like, well, we really like what you all do, and so the story became the acquisition. And so what's nice about it is not only does Butler Till have kind of this part of the population that we market to, but Digital Hive really focuses on small to medium size businesses. And we love that because that's how Butler Till started. I mean, we started that way. I will say too, what was so fascinating, acquisitions are just hard. You know, they're hard from a cultural standpoint. There's a letting go on top of it. As I mentioned, the individual that worked for me was part of Digital Hive, so that rocked the agency, and it just there was a lot of challenges that came our way, but also a lot of growth and understanding of what we needed to do to market not only to the external constituents, but also make sure that we're marketing and making that people are brought into the fold of Butler Till without feeling, I mean, when it comes to acquisitions, what I'm realizing is we sometimes think about the big stuff. You know what a lot of people that get acquired think about? Well, wait, I didn't do a timesheet on a Monday, and now I got to do a timesheet on a Tuesday? Like, what? It's all those like little death by 1,000 paper cuts you got to be really cognizant of. We've been like invested and we've gone through all, and they haven't. So trying to bring them along is just, it's a really hard thing to do. And I think we're still working on that. And it's been over a year.
Yeah, I would definitely say we're still working on it in terms of cultural dynamics as well. And one thing that I think has helped significantly is we've brought over some of the people that were doing like culture and HR from Digital Hive into Butler Till. So like we're creating like one policy manual as an example, so that it's not like you have one thing if you sit over here and another thing if you sit over here. While simultaneously trying to retain the individual cultures, because they're not merging under the Butler Till brand. It's still Digital Hive and Butler Till. So, you know, it's leadership at Butler Till coming to the Digital Hive all hands, leadership from Digital Hive coming to the Butler Till all hands. You know, it's like, how do we kind of stay integrated while also retaining. And that's definitely been a challenge and something that we're working on. And we do look at survey results and things, and we look at them together, and we look at them separately too, just to see, are there things that we need to do better, education, or we need to bring more people into the fold, so it feels more like two parties at the table together.
Well, thank you so much to both of you for being here. This was an amazing.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you
Pleasure.
so
Our
much.
pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah.
They'll be here for lunch. If anybody has any additional questions, feel free to stop by and ask those. Yes. Oh, well, maybe we can put you to work first. For picking one. The giveaway that we're going to pick for your excellent networking, it includes a bottle of wine from Living Roots Wine Co., gift card to Apogee Wine Bar, chocolates from Hedonist Artisanal Chocolates, Saunders College of Business tumbler, candle from Light My Cando Co., an admission to 2 and a poster to the Susan B. Anthony House. Donated. So, who is going to be our lucky? I don't know.
Make her do it. I don't want this kind of pressure. Okay, no, you do it. I don't want to. I'll feel bad if I didn't pick all of you.
Martha T.
Martha Toon. It's crazy. I'm gonna wrap up. Stay, go, stand by me, whatever you. I want to thank everybody for coming today. I hope you thought it was a great day. I hope that you met at least 3, if not more, wonderful, wonderful women. It's been my honor to be here with you. I've felt your energy, and I can't thank you enough for sharing yours with me. This kind of concludes the formal part of our 13th annual Power of Your Potential. I hope to see some of you perhaps at the event tomorrow. So enjoy your lunch. If I can be of any service to you, I'm on LinkedIn at Food Safety Queen. I'm out there. It's very easy to find me. So appreciate you being here. Tell your friends about it. Next year I want to see, 200 people here. So we'll keep growing this, because I think it is truly a powerful event. You're all powerful women. I hope you take away a quote, a nugget, an action item, and do something with it tomorrow. So thank you for being here.